really is great to have your company. You've joined us, I think, just on the right evening. It's perhaps something you've been putting off for absolutely months or even possibly years. Perhaps it's something you don't fancy doing, worries you. It's actually putting a will together, and it's so important. And if you haven't done it, you're going to discover in this show why it is so important. Whether you're somebody on your own, whether you're a couple, whether you're married, whether you're not married, whether you've got children, whether you've got pets, it's so important.
And it might be something that you've thought about time and time again, but you've just never got round to it. That's why tonight is the perfect opportunity for you to start that process, to make that first step to writing a will. We're working with Simpler Law. They're specialists when it comes to this specialist subject, isn't it? And
Yeah,
it's something
absolutely.
that we don't like to talk about.
No, lasting power of attorney we will be getting into as well. And I actually set up my my mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law before they joined us here on ShopOnTV a couple of years ago, and it was so easy. They're like a friend. It's like you sit down for a chat. They make everything so simple. So don't think I don't know what I'm doing. You don't need to know what you're doing. What you need to do is just simply talk to Simpler Law. They'll chat you through absolutely everything and make it all so easy. And price-wise, if you secure the deals with us this morning, our prices are quite incredible because we presumed, and it wasn't something that put us off doing a will, we just never got round to it, didn't think we needed it, but I did think it was going to be a really expensive affair as well.
We thought it was going to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Now, the suggested retail price of the family and estate will with Simpler Law is £180, but the ShopOnTV offer price, just £89. Then they're going to offer you the opportunity to split the cost interest-free, so just £22.25 on your first of 4 payments. As Hayley said, we will be talking about lasting power of attorney. We've got a fabulous deal there as well. £325 suggested retail price, down to £179 or £44.75 on your first of 4 interest.
And I bet you spend more than that on a takeaway every month.
Gosh,
The £22.25, I bet you spend more on coffees every month. It's such a little amount to make sure what you want to happen actually does happen. It's so important. It's money so well spent, honestly. And if you want to, you might think, well, actually, I'm going to do a will and a lasting power of attorney. That should be £505. It's better than half price, £249, and that's split again over 4 payments, so £62.25. Honestly, it's your first step tonight, just securing those deals with us to make sure what you want to happen truly does happen, because it honestly won't unless you have a will, unless you have lasting power of attorney. Secure whatever deal you'll fancy. If you change your mind and think, well, actually, I'll do a will and lasting, that can be changed, but just make sure you secure the deals tonight. And also, we've got 250 books. The first 250 clients that get in touch this morning will get What My Family Should Know book. Now, this book is worth £25, and I truly believe that everybody should be issued with this book. Yeah. I did say from birth, but perhaps that's a little bit too early. Perhaps when you leave school, you should be given this book, because this book makes sure that, sadly, when you do pass, that everything your family needs to know is right there, even down to the things that I hadn't thought about, the passwords to your phone or to your computer, because your phone has probably got every bit of information, every email, every photograph that your family would want to keep, and no one can get on it unless they've got your password. So this book is absolutely phenomenal, and that will go to the first 250
First 250 people who secure an appointment today, or tonight, as we keep saying. Now, if you do want to get in touch, it's really simple and straightforward, and there's a couple of different ways to get the ball rolling, if you like. So first of all, you can go on the website simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. The call centre, however, is open right through till 3 a.m. The Simpler Law team are there ready to take your call, and the call is on the phone number 0333 600 2600.
And they're there right till 3 a.m. and they can answer probably a couple of questions this evening, but honestly, it's just to secure the deals. They'll get back in touch to make sure you've got a date that's right for you to have the appointment. But perhaps you're actually sat there thinking, I don't really fancy talking to anybody this evening. I'd rather, text and speak to someone later on today. I'm going to go to bed shortly, so I don't want anyone speaking to, speak to someone right now. So then text Will to 66777. And the text is really popular, isn't it?
Really popular on these nighttime shows. So just simply text the word Will, WILL to 66777, and the team will get back to you sometime tomorrow after 11 a.m. But we're not alone. To tell us all about simpler law and about such an important process of making a will and an LPA, Helen and Ian join us from Simpler Law. Lovely to see you both again.
Thank you. Good morning.
Let's start straight away, Ian, with who Simpler Law are for anyone out there.
Yeah, sure. We're part of a larger group of legal companies, but we specialise in end-of-life planning. We specialise in things like wills and lasting power of attorney. But we actually offer a full range of private client legal services. What that means to our clients is that we can do everything that they need us to do for them. So we control the quality of our work and we control the speed at which we can get the documents to them. But because we specialise in this area, you wouldn't come to us for any other form of legal work. You can see on the screen there that it's all about your assets and protecting what's dear to you, what you've worked hard for, where do you want it to go when you're no longer here. And as we're going to talk through the show, things like lasting power of attorney. If you're unfortunate enough to lose capacity and you can't make decisions for yourself, today, whilst you have capacity, you can choose people that you want to step into your shoes. So it's all about protecting you, protecting your family, because most people have worked hard for what they've got, and it's just ensuring that what they've worked hard for goes to where they want it to go. And you use a specialist like us, because that's what we specialise in.
Brilliant.
Helen, there's a lot of misconceptions, isn't there, about wills? There's a lot of things like we thought would happen, you presume will happen, but actually will absolutely not happen.
Yeah, that's right. I think most of them, like you say, relate to what happens if you pass away without a will in place. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people out there thinking that everything will be fine, that things will automatically end up where people want them to, and that the right people will step forward and deal with the estate. And as you've come to realise, that doesn't always happen. No. I mean, in your scenario, lots of people will be out there who aren't married but have lived together for a long period of time or have children together, and will automatically be assuming that there's something called a common law spouse, where one of them will automatically inherit if something happens to the other one. And that just isn't true. That's not a legal relationship that is actually recognised in law. So the fact is, if you're unmarried and something happens to one of you, the other one is not entitled to receive anything at all, which can obviously be devastating and not what the person who's passed away would have wanted. No. And there are lots of things like that, that kind of people have these misconceptions. And I think the biggest one is just, you know, they think everything will be okay, and they think that by perhaps telling their family, this is what I want to happen when I'm no longer around, it's okay. We hear that so much. It's okay, everyone knows what I want to happen. And the fact is, if something happens and you haven't got it in a legally binding document, nobody can do what you want to do. No. There's laws in place that say exactly what happens if you pass away without a will.
And life is a lot more complicated now as well, isn't it? So you could be on a second marriage, you could both have children, and it can get very complicated.
Yeah.
And can cause family rifts, can't it?
It can, yeah. I mean, if you've got children from different relationships, it can have a catastrophic effect on where your estate ends up. Because if on first death and you're married, it all then passes to your spouse, when that person passes away, it will all go down to their children and not to your own children. So, you know, we'll talk about through the show all these scenarios and how the law applies. But what I will say is the only way you can guarantee that what happens is what you truly want is to make sure you've got your will in place.
Which we are going to talk about, but we're also going to talk about lasting power of attorney.
That's right.
Can you tell us just a little bit about?
Yeah, so wills, most people have heard of a will and they kind of understand what happens. A power of attorney, a lasting power of attorney, is equally as important, and it's a really powerful document. And this is a document that means that you can appoint someone to act in your place if you ever find yourself in circumstances where you can't make decisions for yourself. So whether that's through illness or through an accident or something like that happens, it means that someone has got a voice on your behalf, and that's really important if you find yourself in those circumstances. So a bit later on in the show, we'll talk more about lasting powers of attorney and the two different types of power of attorney as well.
And I actually did my lasting power of attorney for my mum with Simpler Law before I met you, and spoke to an amazing lady. They very much become your friends. Never worry that you're not quite sure what you want or what you've got or what you need. It's a very simple sit-down conversation, and Simpler Law make it so simple, and everything, all the information they need, they will get from you. It's not anything to worry about at all, and it's that peace of mind after you've done it.
And just getting started tonight, you actually don't need anything with you.
No.
It's just getting started. It is as simple as that. Now, we did mention the first 250 people who get in touch will get the Simpler Law book that we've got for you. Ian, tell us a little bit more about this, because it's when we first saw this, we were like, this is genius.
It really is.
Well, it was born out of one of the services that we provide. Obviously, we're here for our clients today, right now, so that we can draft a will, but we're there at the point of need as well, so we can help people when it comes to bereavement and help with estate administration. And part of that is we have to gather in the deceased estate, so we have to know everything about them, make sure that we've got everything, pay off the debts. It's quite a big responsibility. It would be quite an arduous task. And we started putting this together because we know that it helps families. You said at the top of the show, and quite rightly so, that people don't always take stock of what they've got.
Yeah.
And certainly now in this digital age, also don't think about, have I given access to everything that I keep digitally? And so this book was really born out of that, and just you know, kind of designed so you make a cup of tea, sit down and think, well, what bank accounts have I got? Who are my utility providers? It's really helpful. All this show tonight is about being selfless, truthfully, because you're doing this for other people. You'll find it cathartic when you go through this process, but this is really useful for the people that you're leaving behind. But interestingly, what else came out of this is there were some quite staggering statistics when we looked into it a little bit further. And why this is so important, it's believed at the moment there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots out there.
This is bonkers, isn't it?
£5 billion.
Yeah.
They think it's believed there's £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies. Someone's paid for an insurance and the policy's never been found, the family's missed it. And it's believed there's £850 million sat in bank accounts that should be with your loved one. Yeah, it's massive amounts of money. And, you know, if you think about it, you might have worked at a job and contributed to a pension for a few years. Well, if your family don't know about that, that money's there waiting to be claimed. But if you don't know, you don't know.
And someone might really need that as well, and it's just sat there being wasted.
Well, we're not talking tens and 20, but we're talking billions, you know, and that should be with your loved one. So
Absolutely.
It just helps you sit down and take stock of things. And yeah, we've had a really positive response to it.
I know lots of people do want to buy and purchase this book. So the fact you are getting this, the first 250 people that get in touch this morning, and whether you get onto the phones, whether you email, or whether you just text Will to 6677, honestly, you will be, if you do it now and secure the deals, and the deals are phenomenal, you will actually get that book, which is fantastic. We'll just show you those deals again. I think it's really important you see the prices, because I know for us, we thought a will was going to be really expensive.
We did, yeah.
And it's truly not. £180, incredible value for money. But actually, our special offer, the deal you're securing, if you get in touch this morning, £89. Over 4 payments, £22.25 is all you're spending. And that could be the price you spend on coffee over a month. But then we've got the lasting power of attorney. We'll go into more detail of that, which should be...
Yeah, it should be £325. It's down to £179 with us here at ShopOnTV. 4 interest-free payments. If you want to spread the cost interest-free, £44.75 is the price there. But the biggest saving, if you want to have that real peace of mind with a will and an LPA, that's where the biggest saving is. A suggested retail price of £505.
Which is, and you can see there, £249 is our price today, which is less than half price. You've got 4 payments of £62.25. You might think, oh, I'm not quite sure. Just make sure you secure one of those deals this evening. And I'm sure if you need to change anything, you can do. Just make sure you secure a deal and you'll get that book as well, being one of the first 250 people. To get in touch is really easy, and it's whatever the best option for you. So if you're at home right now thinking I would just rather email right now to simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, and they'll get back to you later on today. Or you can call. You can call. It's 0333 600 2600. The client care team are in the office. And there's a great team. A great team. They're all there right through till 3 a.m. So if you want to call right now, they'll ask a couple of very simple questions. You don't need to have any documents with you. It's just securing that offer, that deal, and making sure you get that book as one of the first 250 people. Or what's very popular is, perhaps you don't want to speak to anybody right now, is just to text Will to 66777. That again will secure and get you ready for that deal, and also make sure you're one of the first 250 people that get the book. And they'll actually then get back to you later on today after 11 o'clock. So they'll know you've been up late with us, so they won't get in touch too early. They'll ring you back later on this morning, and that text is really, really popular. You can go through our website as well, and you can click onto Simpler Law. That's really easy. too. So if you want to do that, we'll just show you that very, very quickly. It'll take you through to Simpler Law website. So you just click straight on there. You'll see the deals, they're all there. And then if you scroll down, tiny bit of information, your name, your phone number, email, a few easy questions, and then just submit. So it's really easy to make sure you don't miss out on those deals we've got this morning.
Now, we are going to continue into more depth and get more information, because it is a subject that we don't tend to talk about, isn't it? Writing a will. But Simpler Law make it so straightforward. So, Helen, why do you think people at home just to know you are specialists, aren't you?
Yes,
why should
that's
they
right.
use you?
Well, it's such an important thing, isn't it? You know, this is a legal document and you want to make sure it's going to work when you really need it to. So you need to choose someone who specialises in this area. And this is what we do every single day. You know, we've got a brilliant team who work with you and hold your hand all throughout the whole process. But for all the usual reasons that you'd look for a services provider, we've got a 5-star Trustpilot rating that we're particularly proud of. We've got a highly skilled and qualified team. We've got professional indemnity insurance, which you should make sure, excuse me, is always in place, because it makes sure then that every single document that we produce is then insured for our clients. All those things that you would look for. But I think the most important thing for us is that we put the client at the heart of everything we do. So everything is focused around the client and doing what's best for them. Yeah. So that once they contact us today, what we'll do is then we'll send you some information, because people will think, I don't know how to write a will, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what information I need to know. We will send you some information to help you prepare. Then we'll have an appointment with you at a time that's convenient to you, so you can sit at home with a cup of tea and our consultant will call you, and they will literally hold your hand through the whole process.
And you make it so easy. You honestly don't need to know anything really, apart from that you want to write a will, and they make it so simple, and it's just that peace of mind once you've actually done it. But could you explain, because I know we didn't think we needed a will, why it's so important to write a will?
Well, it's your last wishes, isn't it? You know, it's saying what's going to happen when you're no longer
your last
around.
Gift to your family, isn't it? Your
and
loved ones.
it's such a powerful thing. I think most people understand that actually a will can leave your assets where you want them to go. But there's so much more to it. You know, you're appointing your executors, so you're deciding who is going to administer your estate, and that's a really important personal thing. You know, this person is going to have access to all your information. You want to know it's the right person. You know, you want to choose who that is. You can leave charitable gifts, you can pass on family heirlooms, but some really important things like appointing guardians for children as well. There's so much that you can do within a will. And everyone who's watching the show, there'll be some reason why they'll think, yes, I need to do this today. And that's what we do these shows for, really. We want to get the information out there. We want to make these services accessible to everybody.
Now, Ian, we mentioned the client care team. We've got a team, or you've got a team of people in place waiting to hear from everyone.
They're right there now, yeah. I mean, it's right what you said about the text. If you don't want to speak to them this morning, then text the word will to 66777, but they're sat there now, yeah. Look, they're a brilliant bunch. I'm always careful about what I say, because when we get back to the office, they ask for a pay rise. But Helen mentioned that we're very proud of our Trustpilot rating. That's our clients being kind enough to take time out of their day to say how well Simpler Law did. But actually, the truth of the matter is, it's the members of the client care team that did well. It's very rare that the review says that Simpler Law were great. It'll say that Jack was great, or Megan was great, Kim, Charlotte, because, as Helen rightly said, we do put the client at the heart of what we do. We appreciate that we do this every single day, but for most of our clients, it'll be the first time that they've done it. So we'll give you all the advice that you need. We will hold your hand through the whole process, and you'll only get the document that you want when we've given you the advice and you've given us instructions and you're happy with everything that's happened. So it's a really personal thing, but at the end of it, I've never heard a client say, I wish I'd never done that.
No.
Some people put it off because they think it might be morbid, might be complicated. Certainly they think it might be expensive. I think we've proven this morning it's not expensive, but it's actually a really cathartic process, and it's so selfless, because you are doing it for the people that you leave behind. I want to be really clear that making a will doesn't diminish the bereavement, but what it does do is it makes sure that it's not made worse.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the biggest reasons for family breakdowns is you know, a family bereavement where they're arguing over what they think mom or dad or, you know, the loved one would want. So it is a selfless thing. I always say this, it sounds really cheesy, but it's absolutely true. no one ever regrets making a will,
No.
but your family might regret that you didn't. So if you are watching this morning and you're thinking, yeah, I've been thinking for a while about what to do, in all seriousness, stop thinking about it and just send us that text or speak to a member of the client care team tonight on 0333 600 2600, because I promise you won't regret doing it. Stop thinking about it and take the all-important first step, because it is an amazing thing that you're going to do if you do.
It is that final gift, isn't it? And it's that peace of mind that everybody that you want to have, you know, whatever you've got. And you might think you haven't got a great deal, but there is always something. And it might be a family heirloom, it might be a ring, it might be your pet. But if you don't write a will, it's not going to go to who you want it to. It might even go to someone you really didn't want it to go to. It's so simple and so affordable this evening, and it's that first step today for that peace of mind that you know when something does happen that it's not going to be made worse because you didn't write that will.
Yeah, and if we're thinking about who needs a will,
Yes.
So who does need a will, Helen? What do they need to do first?
Everyone needs to think about getting a will in place. There will be people watching the show who think, my estate is really easy, it's really straightforward. Well, that's great, but you still need to make sure it's documented. There'll be people who are thinking, well, actually, I haven't got anything. But I think for those people, it's more important because you still need somebody to effectively close down your accounts and things like that. You still need to appoint somebody to do that. So that's really important. And you mentioned pets. You know, one of the biggest things we see a lot of people now who actually care more about their pets. They've got more wishes about their pets than they have about their family, and they want to make sure. They want to make sure they're looked after. So you know, they could either make sure they go to a rehoming place and leave perhaps a cash gift to make sure that they're rehomed,
Right,
or stipulate who's going to look after them and perhaps provide funds for them as well. But all these kind of things. So even people who are watching thinking, well, I don't think I need that. Actually, going through the instruction process will prompt a lot more questions and will extract a lot more information. And by the end of it, you'll be thinking, wow, I'm so glad I did this, because there are so many things that can go wrong if you don't.
Can I just add I like to bring this up because if you're married, if you've got children, you think, I've got someone to leave something to. But the story you told us about that guy, he was in his 40s and died. And he didn't have a family. And I understand his thinking, probably thinking, I've got nobody to leave anything to.
Didn't have his own
really.
children.
I haven't got my own children, I haven't got a partner, so I'll leave a will until later, until perhaps I'm married. But what happened to his money shouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't have been what he wanted.
Well, and I think you've hit the nail on the head when you said it shouldn't have happened. The story goes that, unfortunately, this guy was very successful in his career, but he never got married, never had children. We can only presume why he didn't make a will. And we'll never know.
No.
But when he passed away, sadly, unexpectedly, we call it the government will. A lot of people who haven't got a will perhaps don't realise that there's a second decision in the background that's happening either consciously or subconsciously. It's definitely subconsciously if you don't know about it. You get what's called the rules of intestacy, which we call the government will. That's basically designed to deal with every adult in the UK that hasn't made their own will, so you have no control. So when this gentleman passed away, the backstory was when he was born, his father left. So left basically his wife to bring up the two boys on their own. So he was survived by his brother and his mother. And yeah, and I saw this story on TV actually, and it stayed with me because when he passed away then, the first question that's asked of you under the rules of intestacy is your marital status. And as Helen said, there isn't a common law husband and wife. There isn't, are you in love or are you cohabiting? It's are you married in a civil partnership? It's a yes or no question. And the answer for this gentleman was no. That takes you to the next question, which is, do you have children? And that's a yes or no question. The answer was no. The next question was, do you have parents? And the answer was yes. So the conclusion, the distribution of his estate was equally between his parents. So his father had not been in his life at all since he was born, basically ended up getting half of his estate. So it's awful. So I think you can reasonably guess that if you had the opportunity to say to this gentleman, when you passed away, half of everything you worked hard for went to your dad, who you never met. Is that what you want to happen? I think we can all reasonably guess that no, it wouldn't. And these stories, and sadly we have them every day, they're not extraordinary. It's just life. And unfortunately, if you don't take control, a set of rules that's designed for every adult in the UK is going to distribute your estate. Well, there's only 4 of us here this morning. I dare say all our situations are different. So how can one set of rules deal with that? This is a really personal, really bespoke thing. So again, the reason we do these shows, we want people to understand that, because I don't think they do. because we don't sit around and, you know, wake up and what happens when I die? You know, we don't have these conversations. But sadly, families find out after the event that it's gone wrong. So do something brilliant for your family today. Pick up the phone, speak to the client care team this morning, or send us a text and we will call you back. One thing I will say, you don't want to die intestate. You don't want a government will. It doesn't work for you because it doesn't care about you or your family.
The other really upsetting thing is that his mum, who the husband had walked out on her, she had to then find the dad and speak to the dad again. And
they were responsible for dealing with the estate, and they're responsible for this. Yeah. And
so she's in this terrible situation. She's lost her son,
awful.
And now she's got to talk to the husband that left her all those years ago.
And this is why we say that, you know, we're not saying that a will makes a bereavement brilliant, because of course it doesn't. It doesn't diminish that loss at all. But we see it every day in our administration team where they're dealing with someone that's passed away without a will, and the anguish and heartache, and it can be catastrophic. We don't want to make that call, but we have to make that call. If someone's passed away with a will, we're not happy about the passing away, but there's a will. Everything's set out. We're going to now follow this will.
There's not the extra upset, is there?
And even the family are like, oh, now we know that Dad wanted this, and we know that, and it's such a selfless
It could be really
thing.
personal things as well, like
100%.
Funeral wishes.
Yeah.
If you haven't got a will with funeral wishes in, how does anyone know what you want to happen? And I think that's some of the saddest phone calls we get is we don't even know what Mum would have wanted. You know.
Sometimes families fight as well, don't they? Because you know there'll be set emotions are up here, as you can appreciate. And then you only need like a son going, well, I'm sure Dad would want to be cremated, and the daughter going, no, I'm sure he'd want to be buried.
Oh, God.
And they might have had a brilliant relationship at this point.
Then it breaks down.
We hear the stories all the time. It's really heartbreaking, and it can all be solved with a quick phone call. You know, talk to someone professional. It is your last act on planet Earth. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to control that. It's the last thing that you do effectively is these are my final wishes. So I'd want that done professionally, and I'd want to take control. My colleagues would laugh and say different, but I've worked very hard for everything that I've got. Don't say anything. But in all seriousness, I therefore want to make sure that what I've worked hard for is going to go to where I want it to go, not where a set of rules that was designed in 1925 is going to say. So take control, do something amazing for your family, make a will.
It is. It's those final wishes, isn't it? And we all have misconceptions like we did. As partners, as a couple, I thought it would go to Hayley. Hayley thought it would go to me. But if you are in a partnership and you've got children, what happens if you both pass away at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to think that they're not going to be around to see their children grow up, but sadly it can happen. We mentioned that within a will you can actually appoint guardians for your children. So if something happens to you while your children are under the age of 18, it means that you're appointing somebody that you know and that you trust to actually look after those children if the very worst thing happens to you. And that's such a personal thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, everyone's got opinions on who they'd want to look after them because of where they're located and keeping the kids in the same school, that kind of thing. So it's really important. But what happens if you don't document those wishes in a legally binding document is effectively you're just hoping that the right person steps forward. It might not be who you want. It might be that people from different sides of the family then step forward and start arguing about it. And you can imagine these poor children are in the middle of it all. And all this is going on, and actually nobody really knows what Mum and Dad would have wanted. And what can happen, fortunately it's really quite rare, but if there are these arguments and no one can decide, the children might even be taken into temporary care while everything's sorted out.
It's stomach churning, isn't it?
It is quite rare, and they do avoid it where necessary, but I'm not sure why anyone with children would take that risk.
Everybody should make a will, and a will can be changed if circumstances change, but everybody, whatever age you are, you don't know what's round the corner. And though you might think you've got nothing, but you might have absolutely everything, your children, your pets, you really should write a will. And perhaps you've looked into writing a will, and perhaps you've looked at templates and thought, oh, well, I'll use a template. Ian, why shouldn't people use templates? And I know you're really passionate about
This winds him up a little bit, doesn't it?
No,
things can go so wrong if you use a template, can't they?
Well, here's the thing: is 25 years ago I didn't know anything about wills. Again, don't say anything. I know I'm setting myself up for a fall, but you can only know what you know. And templates will say, yes, you need to appoint these people as an executor, and who do you want to inherit, and where do you want your funeral wishes. A template's not going to give you any bespoke advice about your situation. What if you've got tax implications? And people don't understand that when they're writing wills together, that there's something called a first death and second death against among a couple. And sometimes they make a mistake because they write the same gifts in the wills. It's really easy to get wrong. And I think the reason that I feel quite passionate about it is if I get a toothache, I'm not going to go and try and fix that myself. I'm going to go to a dentist. If my car breaks down, I'm going to go and find a mechanic. You know, there's people who are in profession. Yeah, you wouldn't come to us for anything other than this. You wouldn't come to us for a divorce or a boundary dispute or a personal injury claim. But if you want to make sure that what you want to happen happens when you pass away, do it professionally. What we do is insured. If we make a mistake, and touch wood, we've never got it wrong. We've got over 200,000 clients and we've never had a will fail. If we get it wrong, you and your family are insured. If you make a mistake with a template, you're not insured.
No.
And it's almost worse to do a will yourself and get it wrong, because that means you knew you needed one, but you only did half a job. Don't do half a job. And at these prices, I think you said at £22 a month or whatever it is.
It's so affordable.
I stop on my way to the office on my way down and buy a coffee, and I stop on my way home and buy a coffee. And I've worked out how much that is per month, and I've got to stop buying coffee. but we do spend money on a lot of things that perhaps are nowhere near as important as this. And for that short window, just for those 4 months, you know, interest-free, this is not expensive to get done correctly and right. We will give you all the advice that a template can't. We will insure our work and guarantee it, which a template can't. So I honestly don't know why you take the risk. I really don't.
We see so many things that go wrong. In the probate department, we get a lot of template wills or wills that people have tried to write themselves, and they can cause so many problems. One of the biggest things is getting the signing right. So they have to be signed and witnessed correctly, and you all have to be there at the same time. And I think you're right, it's heartbreaking when we get a will of sorts, so we know what that person would have wanted, but for some reason it's not been drafted correctly or it's not been signed correctly, and
so
it fails.
Legal, it's not
it
fails and you're back to the government will.
So you go back.
It's so heartbreaking, and there's tonight there's no reason for it, because the deals are absolutely incredible, and we'll take a look at those prices again, because honestly, if you're thinking, I do need to write a will. I know we thought it'd be something really expensive to do, and it truly isn't. And also we thought it'd be really complicated, and with Simpler Law, it is so simple. So if you're looking at a will, normally £180, that is still, to me, so affordable to make sure everything you want to go to your loved ones goes to them. And possibly the things that you don't want to go to certain people, doesn't go to those. But actually, our deal this morning, £89, and that is 4 payments of £22.25. And like we were saying, you probably in a month spend more than that on the coffee that you buy, and you've got that peace of mind. You've taken that step today to make sure what you want to happen when you're gone actually does happen. Then we've got the lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a couple of moments. If you don't know what that is, or you've heard of it and you want more explanation, we'll talk about it in a moment. £325 is the suggested retail price there. It's down to £179 on the ShopOnTV offer, and again, you can split the cost if you want to. Interest-free, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments. When you get in touch, the team are there. They're ready to talk to you right now, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the best offer, if you like, on the show is if you want the will and an LPA.
Absolutely. Should be £505 and worth every single penny of that, but you've got that better than half price tonight at £249. And again, splitting that interest-free over those 4 payments, £62.25 is your first of 4 payments. Don't forget, the first 250 people, and I know we are busy, will get that free actual book of What My Family Should Know, and that is an amazing book that every person should have. It's worth £25, and the first 250 people, all you're doing tonight is securing those deals. You don't need to know any answers to any questions. You just get in touch, and there's various ways to get in touch and secure that deal this morning to make sure that you will get that book, and you'll also get those incredible prices. So we can either go on the website.
Yeah, the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the client care team. They're all there in the call centre.
Until 3 a.m.
Until 3 a.m, working very hard.
And they're a great team. You can ask a couple of questions, but you know, they're there just to take and secure that deal this morning. 0333
600 2600 is the number to call, or you can text. And this is a great service at this time of night. If you don't want want to actually speak to anyone, you want someone to get back in touch with you today after 11 a.m. it'll be, you just text the word will, W-I-L-L, to 66777, and that's really popular on these.
Yeah, and I think it is. Sometimes you think, I don't want to speak to anybody right now, but I don't want to miss out on getting this deal. I'm not really great on email and things. Just text Will. It's one of the simplest ways, and they'll get back in touch this morning, but later on after 11 a.m. We do get confused mornings and evenings. It's all blends into one, doesn't it? And you might be watching thinking, well, yep, I definitely need a will. But you were talking about lasting power of attorney. I'm not really understanding that, the LPAs and things. So Helen, can you explain, because there's a lot of misconceptions about this as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so with a lasting power of attorney, we're talking about someone who loses capacity to make decisions for themselves. And I think, again, a lot of people assume that everything will just be okay. But if you think about everyone that we speak to and everyone that we deal with throughout our daily life, financial institutions, utility providers, all that kind of thing, whenever we try to do anything with them, the first thing they ask us is, are you the account holder?
So true, yeah.
Yep.
And straight away, if you've got someone who's lost capacity and someone else is trying to deal with it, they've hit that brick wall already. So, you know, it's such an important thing to remember that you can't automatically step in and help somebody. And I think there's this kind of misconception that if somebody's ill, that there's some kind of rule that changes all that. And you know, with data protection and protecting vulnerable people, there was a shocking statistic that came out recently that that 500 million pounds has actually been stolen from vulnerable over 65-year-olds, and most of the time it's by people they know that are doing it. So this misconception that actually, you know, everything will be fine. If I can't make decisions for myself, my husband, my wife, my children can step in. That is not the case. At a time when you're really vulnerable, you need that protection in place.
Now, Ian, can you go more into depth on lasting power of attorneys for us?
Yeah. What Helen's saying is absolutely spot on. That this thing, we banned this word around capacity because it's from the Mental Capacity Act of 2005 that these documents came into force. But we're talking about dementia is really prevalent at the moment. We're all living longer, so most people sadly have been touched either directly or know someone that's been affected by dementia. So it's awful watching a loved one go through that. If, as they're going through that, you then realise that they were perhaps the decision maker in the relationship, they were the ones that controlled the money, because it's not uncommon in a couple for you to take different roles.
Yeah.
And it may be the wife or the husband that's then saying, right, okay, well, what do I do with the money? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just go into the bank, and they'll walk into the bank and say, really sad, my wife's just been diagnosed with dementia. She used to deal with the money, but can I access this? And they may be sympathetic, but if you haven't got the legal authority, as Helen's just said, you can't act, and people find this really shocking. But again, it's the law.
Yeah.
And if you think about it logically, if you can't go into someone else's bank whilst they've got capacity and access to their account, you certainly can't go into that bank when they've lost capacity, because they're then classed as even more vulnerable and they have more protection. So what you have to do is today, whilst you know you have capacity, is say, well, I trust this person or these people, and it's typically your spouse, your partner, your children, and you set up a power of attorney. You say, if life threw me that curveball, if I was incapacitated through an accident or illness, I would want these people to step into my shoes. And it sounds like a bit of a broad stroke, but for all intents and purposes, the institutions that you deal with, if I named you, Sean, not that trustworthy, but if I named you, Sean, as my attorney,
Thanks, Ian.
but to make the point, if I named you as my attorney, you register that document with something called the Office of Public Guardian, you can then deal with all the institutions that I deal with as if you're me. That's how powerful it is. And again, it's one of these things that people don't think about. We know that a will is going to be used. There's an inevitability to that. So you set your will up, you can forget about that. That will come into effect. I don't want to call these an insurance policy, because they're not, but they're a what if. These are the documents that you want your family to have and hope that they never need to use it, because if you've been through anything like this, you know how heartbreaking it can be. It can be compounded when you realise the difficulty of not being able to help and not being able to get involved.
Stopped at every gap, aren't you? I had it with my mum. It was we were lucky enough that we'd put it in place.
Your story is really interesting, and we're grateful that you share it on this show. But obviously, you found out there was a problem as unmarried partners, and you dealt with it. You needed help to put a lasting power of attorney in place for your mum, and you got that in time.
Yeah.
The worst phone calls we receive at the office, frankly, and it's an awful thing to call them, but we call them the too late phone calls. because when it's too late, it's too late. The only time to act is now.
Yeah.
So again, this is why we do these shows. You want these documents in place, and then you just hope that they never needed to be used.
And the great thing is you made it so easy. Marianne was the lady I spoke to with my mum to do the lasting power of attorney. And we did both, and we're going to talk about there are two different types, and I was really worried because I'm terrible with anything legal, and my mum was absolutely petrified. And it was so simple. It's like you became friends, and you just made it all so easy. And one of the ladies that signed for us, her name was, we knew her as one name, but actually it was her middle name. So had we not have dealt with you, it could have been completely wrong, because you sent it back and said, no, that needs to be...
It is those little things that you don't realise are so important.
That you wouldn't even think about. But when we did ours, we did do both lasting power of attorneys. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so there is two different types, and one is called property and financial affairs, and that is the one that most people understand and have heard of, because it deals with things like bank accounts and claiming benefits and dealing with tax affairs, maybe selling property, all those kind of day-to-day, dealing with utility providers, all that kind of thing. So those day-to-day things that most people understand, yet I understand that somebody would need that authority to do that. The other one is a little bit more personal. It's called a health and welfare lasting power of attorney. And that one gives somebody the authority to make decisions about more personal things, like what health treatment you receive, what medical care, even things like where you live, or what social activities you take part in. So all those things that you kind of take for granted, that, you know, because you know that person, you know they'd want to go to church in the morning, or they'd want to do knitting classes, or all those kind of things, the personal things. Unless you've got that voice and that ability to say, well, yes, this is what mum or dad wanted, you've got no authority to dictate that. And then you're in a position where someone who doesn't know that person as an individual is then making decisions for them and on their behalf, which just seems bizarre. But it's such an important document. And I know there'll be people who are watching this who will suddenly think, hang on, I'm not sure if my mum and dad have got LPAs, and it's going to be down to me. So, you know, I'd urge them to speak to their parents and check that they've got powers of attorney in place, because that will make your life so much easier if anything ever happened.
So if someone loses capacity and they don't have an LPA in place, what happens then? Yeah,
so like we said, you have to do this now while you've got capacity. If you or a family member loses capacity without an LPA in place, it's then too late for a power of attorney. What you have to do is put an application into the Court of Protection for something called a deputyship order. Now that is obviously a formal court process, so it's quite a lengthy process. The application forms are quite long, with lots of kind of free text boxes where you have to justify that you're the right person to get that authority to deal with mum or dad's affairs. But it's also very expensive as well. The fees really rack up. So you've got an application fee, which is £371. You've got an assessment fee on every deputy that's going forward, which is £100. If the court say, well, OK, we've got your application, but we need to understand, are you actually the right person for this role? They might say that a hearing is necessary. Gosh. And that's another £494.
Wow.
And then you've got a supervision fee, which is actually an annual fee. So this is charged every year for the court to supervise what you're doing, because it's such an important role. So understandable where these fees come from, but that's another £320. And these fees all rack up, and the process is really quite painful and lengthy. And it's so easy to avoid this. You know, if you get a lasting power of attorney in place now, your family are not going to have to go through that process. They're not going to have to wait. Ours are taking about 12 months at the moment to get a deputy order through. So you can imagine at a time when you're trying to help mum or dad, you know, you're trying to deal with their affairs, they perhaps need extra care. You're having to find the money to do that. You can't access their bank accounts for that period of time because you've got no authority to do it. And if you have to wait 12 months to get the authority from the court to do it, it just makes everything so much more difficult. And it's so easy to resolve.
It is. It's so easy, and it's so affordable as well. It's what I did and set up for my mum, and it was so simple to do, and I did it with Simpler Law, and they were absolutely fabulous. Marianne became became a friend, really, and things like this do petrify me, and definitely petrify my mum, and it was just a conversation. It was so easy, and the great thing is it's all at your speed as well, and the lovely thing is if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Everything is corrected, and everything will be absolutely right. We've got incredible deals, absolutely amazing deals tonight. So if you do want to secure these deals, take a look at them, because we have got deals, and we will be popping back to Will's now. But you can see there the lasting power of attorney, £325 is the normal price, £179 is your price today, and you can split that over 4 payments. £44.75 is the first of those 4 payments. But we will be going back to Will's, and Will's on their own. And I thought doing a will would be so expensive, and it's just not, is it?
No, it's brilliant. The LPAs, the lasting power of attorneys, also there for you. But if you want the family and estate will, as I say, £89, £22.25 on the first of 4 payments. The lasting power of attorney, £179 or £44.75 on the first of 4 payments.
And we're going to pop back to the wills now. If you just want to set up a will and secure this deal, £180 is the price it normally is, so really affordable at £180, but £89 is your price if you secure it with us, either on the phones or on the website, or even text. £22.25 is your payment over 4 payments. And of course, the first 250 people will get that book as well, What My Family Should Know. We'll just show you really quickly how to get in touch with us, because you can either get in touch on the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. The phones 0333 600 2600, and they're there right now until 3 a.m. They're an amazing team. You might have a couple of questions you want to ask. They can answer a couple of questions, but they will be busy. What they'll do is secure your deal, and they'll get back in touch to make sure you've got a date that's the right time to actually really talk things through.
But there are a lot of people on these nighttime shows like to use the text service, and if you text the word will, WILL, to 66777, that means the team will get in touch with you after 11 a.m. this morning. So later in the day, it means you have obviously been up late with us watching the show. They won't get in touch before 11 o'clock in the morning. And Ian, just so everyone knows, if they do get in touch, what do people need right now?
They don't need anything right now. They don't need to know anything other than this is something that they want to do. And that is the all-important first step that we've been talking about during the show, because we can't help you unless you get in touch with us. And we know that everyone that makes a will with us doesn't make a will that's anything like the rules of intestacy. So we know that everyone needs it because it's a personal thing. But if you sat there thinking, well, I don't know who I'd want my executors to be, I'm not even sure where I want to distribute my estate, that's not what tonight's about. Tonight is about, I know I need a will, and we'll take all the time that you need before we draft the document for you. So it's just about sending us that text, picking up the phone, and then we'll be able to help you. But please, if you sat there thinking about it, don't think about it any longer. Make that all important first, because I promise you won't regret that you did it. I keep saying this, but it's absolutely true that no one ever regrets putting estate planning in place. No one regrets making a will. No one ends a consultation with us by going, oh, I wish I'd not done that. Everyone's like, I'm so relieved.
It's a weight off your shoulders. It's peace of mind.
During the consultation, you can also find out things that you couldn't have possibly known. Because, again, you only know what you know. And unless you work in this industry, unless you work in this profession, so sometimes, clients are like, oh, my God, you're a shining example of it. You assumed that you were both going to inherit from each other.
We've been together 33 years, so why would I not my money is Sean's money is mine. But actually, Helen, the complete opposite would have happened if we hadn't written a will. And we've only just written a will in the last year and discovered that actually what we thought would happen wouldn't have happened.
No, and there are so many people in the same situation. I mean, even married couples, a lot of people who are married think, oh, it's fine because it'll automatically all go to my spouse. Well, that's not the case either.
Now, that's a massive thing, isn't it, for a married couple?
Exactly, yeah. It depends on the size of your estate, really, because there's a statutory legacy amount that goes to the spouse, but then anything else might be divided up depending on your family makeup. Gosh. So don't assume just because you're married that this doesn't apply to you.
This is all about, sorry Helen, this is all about control.
It is.
Is everything we're saying tonight, and Helen's brilliant with all the stats and statutory legacies, but all that means you haven't got control.
No.
So
it's given to the government, isn't it? And they
created a set of rules, In 1925, these rules were put in place. So society was incredibly different 100 years ago. And unfortunately, you know, we're not now in a society where it's just Mr. and Mrs. Smith with 2 children. You know, it could be Mr. and Mrs. Smith who are on the second relationship, second marriage, and they might have children from previous relationships, they might have children together. And the rules of intestacy, it sounds melodramatic, but they rip that family apart because it's not designed to look after that family. So the only way that you can guarantee, and it's a strong word, guarantee, but the only way that you can take control of what you want to happen is you have to put a legally binding will in place that's yours. That's all about you. It's your will. You choose your executors. You choose what age your children or your grandchildren inherit. You choose guardians for your children. You decide who inherits, not a set of rules that's 100 years ago that's designed for everybody. You know, and you can even document your funeral wishes and your organ donation preferences. It's incredibly personal. It's your last act, but you take control of that last act. If you don't, everything that we're talking about here, I promise you, sadly happens. You die intestate, a set of rules comes into force, and it doesn't care about your family. It doesn't care about what you would want. It just cares about distributing your estate. And Helen's quite right. Even married couples are sat there going, well, it won't affect me. But actually,
it does.
Even as a married couple, it's not guaranteed to go the way that you want it to go. So don't risk it. Make a will.
And absolutely everybody should make a will, shouldn't they? Whether you're a single
absolutely.
person, whether you're a guy, a girl, whether you're in a partnership, whether you're married, whatever situation you're in.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's circumstances are so different. And Ian's right, these set of rules, they treat everyone exactly the same. You know, if you have got children, it may be that you want to kind of give specific gifts to one child and not the other, or maybe treat them differently. Perhaps if you're closer to one and they've made sacrifices, they've kind of given up their house to come and live with you or something like that, you might want to treat them differently. Well, the intestacy rules treat everybody all the same. So there's nothing personal about it. You might have family that actually you don't speak to anymore. We see it quite a lot now that families are quite fragmented and, you know, you perhaps don't want people to inherit. Well, you can specifically exclude them from inheriting, but you have to do it in a will and make sure it's legally binding.
It's not enough just to think it or say. Unfortunately, too often that, well, my eldest son knows what I want to happen, or I've spoke to my mate down the pub and he understands. And honestly, we hear this a lot, and again, it's just a lack of understanding because, again, you can only know what you know. And sadly, you've got people who are very clear in their mind what they want to happen, but unless you put it in a legally binding document, it's not going to happen.
And everybody's in such a heartbreaking situation already because you've lost a loved one, and then all of a sudden what they wanted to happen isn't going to happen, and that can cause a family rift as well. It's so upsetting, and it's so simple to write a will and so easy with simpler law and incredible deals as well. If you are securing those deals this morning, you are going to also get an amazing book. There's 250 of these books to the first 250 clients, and this really is a fabulous book that actually allows your family to know all and everything. So sadly, when you pass, they need information like your bank accounts and what sort of pensions you've got and things like that. It's all in there. But also now the world's changed. It's your phone, your code to your phone. Because your phone's got probably every photograph, all those emails and loads of things that people don't want to lose but can't get into your phone because they don't know the code.
Your phone, your tablet, where your photos are, like you say, your utility bills, any pensions that your family might not know about. It's all in that one place. Every person,
I said from birth, perhaps a bit early, but I think as soon as you become sort of an adult, when you leave school, you should get this book. But you are getting this book. It's worth £25. Lots of people want to buy it. But if you're securing the deals and check out those deals, get in touch as well, please. You have got amazing prices. £180 is your price for a will normally. £89 is your deal if you secure it this morning. 4 payments of £22.25. I bet you spend more on coffee every single month. You've got the lasting power of attorney as well, £325. We will go back into more detail about that as well. £179 is your price today, and that'll split over 4 payments of £44.75, and then you can go for the 2 as well, which is the will and the lasting power of attorney. £505 is the price. It should be £249. That's better than half price, and then you can split that cost as well.
This is why tonight is the time to get in touch, and remember, only the first 250 people will get that fabulous book we talked about. Speaking of getting in touch, if you do want to, you can go directly to the Simpler Law website website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call 0333 600 2600.
And the team are there and they're great. They're there till 3 a.m. this morning.
And you don't need anything with
No.
you. It's just securing your appointment and make sure you get the deal and you get that.
You don't need any answers to any questions. It's securing that and making that appointment in the future. And honestly, they make it so simple. The thing that is most popular is texting, actually.
Yeah, that is such an easy way to get in touch. You just text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777 and the team will be in touch with you sometime tomorrow or today after 11 a.m. this morning. So do simply get in touch to Simpler Law and start that ball rolling. It's that first step, it really is.
First step's that peace of mind that you know what you want to go to your loved ones will go to your loved ones. Because if you don't do it legally, honestly, completely the opposite will happen. And we didn't realise that. Partners for 33 years, of course all my money would be Sean's or Sean's money would be mine. No, the complete opposite. And so don't have that misconception that what you want to happen will happen, because it won't, sadly, if you haven't got a will in place. And of course we will talk more about lasting power of attorney as well.
Fabulous services from a specialist company with Simpler Law, and that's why it's so important that you get in touch with us right now.
Do you have questions about a product before you purchase? Or just want to be part of the show? You can reach the Shop on TV studio at any time during our live broadcasts by emailing studio@shopontv.co.uk. We look forward to hearing from you at Shop on TV. Keep up to date with all the latest news, information and special offers from Shop on TV by following us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok and YouTube. You'll find us at Shop on TV Live. Be a part of our fun community at Shop on TV.
It's really lovely to have your company this morning, and welcome if you have just joined us, ITV and STV as well. We've got an amazing show, or we're in the middle of an amazing show, and this really is all about something that you've perhaps put off for a long time, which you really must do.
Yeah, if you've thought about writing a will, but you've just never got round to it, we have got some amazing deals from a specialist team. Simpler Law are with us to talk us through how to write a will, how to get that first step.
Why you should write a will.
Yeah. And not just wills, we're going to be talking about lasting powers of attorney as well for you. So we'll go into lots and lots of detail, and you have the opportunity to get in touch with great prices and to secure a deal where you're making that first step.
That's it, to make sure what you want to happen actually does happen, because it truly, and do stay with us to discover what does happen, what you presume will happen, even if you're married with children, perhaps you're remarried with children from different partners, what you think will happen honestly doesn't, and we'll explain why that is. You do need to make sure you write that will, but also the lasting power of attorney is so important for a loved one too. The deals are incredible, so let's give you the prices, because these prices are only for this morning, and my goodness, we've been busy. You've got an amazing deal for your wills. I thought a will would be really expensive. It also petrified me, and Simpler Law makes it so easy to do. £180 is the price it should be, so it was, affordable then. But actually £89 is our price today. And if you split that over those 4 interest-free payments, £22.25. I bet you spend more than that on coffee. Isn't coffee expensive? Isn't everything expensive? So that is such an amazing deal. It's money so well spent. I can't, say that enough. But you might be thinking, well, actually, yeah, I would like a will, but I'm interested in lasting power of attorney. Now, you can do that on its own.
You can. The offer we've got for you there, well, it should be a suggested price of £325. Shop on TV offer price is £179, but with those 4 interest-free payments, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments there for the power of attorney. If you do want to go for both, we've got an even better deal if you combine the 2 together. So for the will and the LPA, should be £505. It's down to £249, or £62.25 on your first of 4 payments there. It's really simple to get in touch, but the first 250 clients will also receive a free What My Family Should Know book. In that book, it has everything you need to know if your loved one passes away.
It's so good, that book, isn't it?
It is. It's brilliant. If you do want to get in touch, it's straightforward, it's simple, it's easy. Even at this time, the customer client care team are in place right through till 3 a.m. If you want to just send an email, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. We'll ask for a few very simple details and then someone will be in touch. Or you can call. The team are in place right through till 3 a.m. So if you just want to secure the deal, and make sure you get that book.
And that's all you're doing tonight. You don't need to, know anything really, apart from you want to make a will, you want to make lasting power of attorney. So 03333 600 2600 if you want to call. They're there right till 3 a.m. Please do jump on the phone lines. I know they have been busy, but what's really popular is texting, and this is so easy. I would do this, you see, it's so easy. Just text Will to 66777. All you're doing is you're securing that deal, you're making sure you get that book, and what the team will do is they'll get back to you this morning. Have to think about it. It's not tomorrow, this morning after 11 a.m. They know that you've been up late with us, so they won't call you too early. But that's if you don't fancy talking to someone right now, or perhaps you think, well, I'm going to go to bed in a bit, I don't want to wait for someone to ring me back. They won't ring you till a little bit later on in the day. So text Will, but do that now so you secure those deals. You can go through our website as well, ShopOnTV.co.uk. That's really easy too. If you go onto our website, you'll find the Simpler Law right in the middle there, and press onto that. That's all your deals. It takes you through to their website. There's a couple of easy questions. First of all, your name, phone number, email, and then a couple of easy questions, and then you submit. And again, you're securing those deals and making sure you don't miss out on that book.
And to tell us all about everything that we've just mentioned to you, we've got Helen and Ian with us from Simpler Law. And speaking of Simpler Law, Ian, straight away, just explain to everyone at home who you are and what you do, if you would.
We specialise in end-of-life planning and estate planning, so wills and lasting power of attorney is at the heart of what we do. We do offer a full range of private client legal services, so we can basically meet all of our clients' needs. But we're there to help our clients make sure that what they want to happen is going to happen. And obviously the reason that we do these shows is to reach as many people as we can to make that a reality. Because unfortunately, there is a lot of myth and misconception around making a will. There is a lot of misunderstanding out there. Our job is to basically help our clients make sure that what they want to happen, if you like, their last act on planet Earth, actually happens. And we specialise in that area. You wouldn't come to us for anything else. So any other area of law, that's not us.
Yeah.
But if you worked hard for what you've got and you want to make sure that it goes to where you want it to go, then you come to us and we will make that happen for you.
And it's so important, isn't it, Helen? Because there's a lot of misconceptions. We were, under that sort of idea that if anything happened to either of us, because we have been together 33 years, everybody that we know knows that. So obviously, Sean's money would be mine. Obviously, my money would be Sean's. You know, we've got a house together,
it's
we've
just
been
a presumption, isn't it?
But actually,
it's
completely the opposite would have happened, and I wouldn't have been entitled to Sean's money. He wouldn't have been entitled to mine.
No, that's exactly right. People think that there's something called a common law spouse, and they think that if you have been together for a number of years, or if you live together, or if you've got children together, that there's some kind of legal relationship there. But as you discovered, that's not the case. And if something did happen to one of the couple, the other one wouldn't be entitled to receive anything from their estate at all, which can be, absolutely catastrophic, really. It would leave that person in a really difficult situation. But also people who are married, I think they assume that their spouse would automatically receive everything. And that's not always the case either. It depends on the size of the estate and their family situation as well. So there's so many different scenarios to think about, but these kind of misconceptions all relate to what happens if I die without a will in place. And I think they exist because people don't really talk about it. They don't go and seek advice from the right places. They'll talk to somebody, someone in the supermarket or down the pub, or, speak to someone else who doesn't really understand, and they're like, no, it'll all be fine, and they're not getting that correct advice. And that's why we do these shows, because we want to make sure that people are making informed decisions, that they understand the consequences of not having a will in place, because I can guarantee once they do, they will want to get that document done.
Absolutely. There's nothing more devastating. You're already devastated because you've lost a loved one, and then what they wanted to happen isn't actually happening, and can cause big family upsets, and you hear this so often. So rather than perhaps helping to create that upset. It's your final gift to make sure what you want to happen actually happens. It's so important.
I love what you say, and you say you're not doing it for yourself, are you?
It's totally selfless. You surprisingly, when you go through a consultation, it's quite cathartic for you. You will get something out of it. You'll get peace of mind, and you'll get insurance, and a weight might be lifted that you didn't even know you were carrying.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. But it's totally selfless, because you're right. Making a will doesn't diminish a bereavement, but what it does do is it doesn't make it any worse for your family. And the single biggest reason for family breakdowns is following a bereavement where arguments have taken place. You know, it can be something as silly as, well, Mum said that I was getting the wedding ring.
Yeah.
Well, Mum can say, well, I want this daughter to have the wedding ring, I want this daughter to have the engagement ring. That argument's gone now, it's not going to happen.
Down,
yeah, so it is really, really selfless. You know, another thing that I say quite often, because it's absolutely true, and we've got loads of experience of this, is no one ever regrets putting estate planning in place. There's nothing to regret.
Yeah.
No.
You're planning for the worst, you're hoping for the best, but with a will, we all know there's an inevitability, it's going to be used. But if you do that, you'll never regret doing that for your family. But your family may just regret that you never did it, because then all these problems can occur. And you've got to imagine that grief's a factor. Emotions are running high. So unfortunately, a situation that's already, you're quite right, Hayley, already devastating, is already terrible, is then compounded because you didn't make a will, because you thought that everything was going to be okay. And sadly, what Helen said a minute ago is quite right. We will talk to a friend, or we'll talk to, you know, the pub quiz champion, because he knows everything and he'll tell you that you're common law husband and wife, or he'll tell you that everything's okay, but he won't be able to back that up, and he certainly won't insure his advice. No. And unfortunately, that isn't an assurance, and when this goes wrong, it can go terribly wrong. So if you sat there watching this and thinking about it, my best advice is don't think anymore. Send the word will to 66777. We'll call you back later this morning. Or the team are there now. Phone 0333 600 2600 and speak to one of the client care team. Just secure the deal. You don't have to know what you want to do tonight, other than you want to do something brilliant for your family.
You've realised you need to do that.
It's that first step, like we say.
Yeah.
It's so easy to put it off. It's so easy to not get round to it.
And wouldn't you be heartbroken? And I don't know what happens, obviously, when we pass, but if you were looking down and watching your family argue because you didn't write that will, and if you'd just have gotten round to it, it would have been so... Obviously, they'd still be devastated, but there wouldn't be that extra upset of them fighting, thinking they know what you wanted. It's all written down. It's all legal. It's so, so important. We're going to go into real detail about making a will, but also we've got lasting power of attorney, and I think we've discovered what lasting power of attorney is, but perhaps you might be thinking, I don't even know what that is. So for anyone that's watching thinking, you know, do I need that and what is it? Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think most people understand a will and that it deals with our estate on death. There's a lot more to it that we'll go into, but the lasting power of attorney is an equally powerful document, and we find that as we're talking to clients, that people then get an understanding of how important it is to have this in place. And this document is one that, if something happened to you so that you weren't able to make decisions for yourself, so either through illness or through an accident, it gives somebody else the authority to act on your behalf. So it gives somebody your voice, someone who can make decisions if you're not able to do so. So it's really powerful. But the thing is, you have to do it now. You have to do it now while you're fit and well. Choose who you want, choose someone that you know and trust, and typically it's your spouse or your partner or your children, but it's your decision. Everything we talk about on these shows is all about you taking control of your estate, your assets, your decisions, your welfare, and it's you saying, I want this to happen. If you don't make these documents, other people are going to be making these decisions on your behalf, and that's not what you want to happen. So the power of attorney is an equally important and very powerful document.
And we did actually set up the lasting power of attorney for my mum with Simpler Law before they joined us here at Shop on TV, probably about a couple of years ago. And it's just as simple as sitting with us tonight. It's a real easy conversation. She became a friend, the lady that we dealt with. And all these sort of things petrify me. My mum is even worse. But it was just so easy because it was just like a conversation.
It's so much more relaxed than you think it's going to be. You think it's going to be that formal legal meeting where you can say everything wrong.
And you need to know all the answers.
It's the complete opposite to that.
It's not like the old-fashioned way of walking into an office
and
sitting down and having to answer all these questions and feeling on the spot and not really understanding what's going on. It's not like that at all. You're absolutely right. It's like having a conversation. ask all the questions to extract the information.
You get it out.
You'll probably be like, why are they asking this? Why are they talking about it? But it's also that we can build the picture and completely understand exactly what it is that you want to achieve. And then we can give you that advice on how to make that happen.
Now, we will go more into detail on lasting
We're going to concentrate first of all on the wills, but whatever you're securing tonight, whether it is the wills or whether it's the lasting power of attorney, you will, if you're one of the first 250 clients, get a fabulous book that it's worth £25. Lots of people want to buy this because it's a book I think everybody should have. And I did say originally from birth, but it's perhaps a bit early. Perhaps when you sort of leave school, you should be handed this book because, Ian, everything anybody needs to know, if you were to pass, information that you probably could not find anywhere, it's all in there, isn't it?
Yeah, this was really born out of one of the services that we provide, which is estate administration, so going through the probate process, gathering the estate together, so knowing what needs to be distributed through the will. And of course, you know, we amass a lot over our lifetime. I often hear people say, I haven't got very much, but then when you sit down and start taking stock, it's like, well, you know, it all adds up. But also we live in a slightly different world now. We live in a digital age where a lot of things that we treasure, like pictures and videos and things like that, are all locked away in a digital vault.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so this all came together, and it's only because of what we do. You know,
if you don't know the password, you've lost all of that.
I think that's why this has been really well received, because people have gone, yeah, my son or my daughter wouldn't have been able to get that, or things get lost. Things get lost that are sentimental and important, but money gets lost. When we were putting this together, some really terrifying statistics came to the fore that it's believed there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots out there. So people have invested in pensions, they've never been found when they passed away. So there's £5 billion that's gone unclaimed. And I did say billion, not million. Yeah. There's £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies. Someone's insured themselves, but that policy has never been found, never been claimed on. And it's believed there's £850 million just sat in UK bank accounts. This is money that should be with your loved ones and isn't. It's still with the institutions. So that's why we actually put this book together. That's why we didn't give it a very imaginative title, What My Family Should Know, but it does exactly what it says on the book, What My Family Should Know. Yeah.
It's an amazing book, and the first 250 people will actually get that. If you are actually securing the deals today, whether you're texting, whether you're emailing, or whether you're jumping onto the phone, so any which way. Now, Helen, for anyone that is watching, thinking, OK, I do need to do a will, why should we choose Simpler Law?
Well, it's a really important thing, isn't it? You know, you want to know that the people that you're going to know what they're doing. And this is what we do every single day. You know, this is what we specialise in. We've got an amazing team of people back at the office. They're all there right now until 3 o'clock in the morning. But they will kind of hold your hand through the whole process. We've got a 5-star Trustpilot rating as well, so that you can be assured that our clients are giving that kind of positive feedback. All our documents are fully insured. We've got professional indemnity insurance. But I think the most important thing is that the client is at the heart of everything we do. You know, it's all about the client journey, and we will hold your hand through the whole process. We know that everyone's circumstances are different. We know that people will treat this process differently. For some people, it will be really easy and straightforward and a bit of a paperwork exercise, whereas for other people, maybe because of their circumstances or family situations, it could be a little bit more difficult to start talking and having those conversations. And our team are trained and specialised at doing that. This is what they do every single day. They talk to different people in different circumstances, and they will help you go through the process. So I think for us, that's really important, and I think it kind of sets us aside.
And we've experienced it. We've been lucky enough to work with your team, not work, but have your team offer the services to us, and it is exactly that.
Yeah. It's like they're sat in your front room.
It's so informal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think it's going to be really formal and rigid, and you're going to do it wrong. And
I feel like it was going to be like an exam.
Yes.
You know, and I was going to fail dramatically because I know I'd get all the questions wrong, even if it was multiple choice, you know. But it's not like that at all. They'll chat you through, they'll talk you through everything, all the information they need, and we don't know what we need, and like Ian was saying, sometimes you might think you've got nothing, but actually you've got so much. And it might be your pet that you want to be looked after by a certain person. You might have a tortoise that might outlive you completely, and you know, but who are you going to leave? Who's going to look after that tortoise? It might be your children. It might be if you're someone single, actually making sure that your parents or who you want to have, whatever it may be, a favourite ring, something that's really personal, that they actually get it. Because honestly, what you think will happen, it so doesn't.
So different.
And that is so the truth, isn't it, Helen? 'Cause
it is.
What does happen if you haven't got a will?
Well, if you die without a will in place, you're said to have died intestate. And that means that instead of your wishes taking effect, you are actually governed by a set of rules that was created almost 100 years ago. And they're the intestacy rules. And they're very black and white. They dictate what happens to your estate, and it dictates who can actually deal with your estate as well. And these rules were created at a time when family circumstances were really different from where they are now. You know, it was in a time where people quite often got married and stayed married, and that was it. They got married, they had children. Nowadays, people can be on their second or third relationship. They may have children from different marriages, and these rules, they don't take that into account at all. There is nothing personal about the intestacy rules, and there's certainly nothing that you can control under there. So basically, you don't want to die intestate. You want to make sure you have a will in place and make sure that your wishes are documented so that when you do pass away, things go to the right people, or things, you know, don't pass to the people that you wouldn't want them to. You know, those black and white intestacy rules, they may pass assets to people that you would not want to inherit.
And it could be the opposite of your wishes.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And they treat everyone exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't anything personal about them at all. They don't take into account your circumstances because they can't, because they're designed to cover everybody.
It's a default position, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
It's a default position and doesn't care about you. It just cares about this is the fallback. So when people don't make a will, there's another decision going on that they're probably unaware of, which is it's all right to say, well, I've not made a will. Well, actually, what you've done by not making a will is accepting the government will. And you might have very clear wishes, and you might think it's enough to tell your eldest son or your best friend or whoever what you want to happen. But unless you put it in a legally binding document, you've not taken control, and you will, as Helen's just said, you will die intestate, and those rules will kick in. And that's when you have all the heartbreak. So, you know, I've said before that a will doesn't make a bereavement any easier, but it certainly doesn't make it worse. But if you pass away without a will, that's when, frankly, all hell can break loose. And in some situations, it can rip families apart, you know, figuratively and literally. It's awful. It's absolutely terrible. So if you sat there thinking, I've been thinking about making a will for a while, this might be the opportunity. The planets have aligned. You've seen my double chin and big nose tonight. And there's a reason for that is, right, tonight I'm going to send the text. I'm going to text Will to 66777. Or the team are there, like Helen said. They're in our office now, waiting to take your call. That's how committed we are to getting through to people how important this is. 40333 600 2600. You don't need to know what you want to do tonight. You just need to know that you want to do it.
Start.
We'll help you. Our entire job, and what they do every single day, the client care team, is help people get the documents that they need, and then they are bespoke, they are yours, and you have taken control. Without making a will, you have no control whatsoever, and that can be devastating.
And that's all they need to do tonight, isn't it? Is get in touch. Don't need to answer any tricky questions.
Tonight is securing the deal and doing something amazing for yourself. It's really selfless, but it's what you're going to do for yourself.
It's your final gift for your loved ones.
That's a great way of putting it, because it's your last act, if you like.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that it's right. What you don't want to do is shuffle off the mortal coil and leave a disaster. Because it's already sad that you've lost a loved one, but if your family are then having to pick up the pieces of that, or worse still, people are made homeless. You know, it can be as devastating as that.
Of course.
And none of this is done maliciously. It's done because they didn't know.
Didn't realise.
Or they generally just thought, oh, well, actually, the pub quiz champion seemed to know what he was talking about. And I'm not being facetious when I say that, but don't take advice from someone who isn't insured and isn't professional.
And I think a lot of us do just presume, and we do just presume, just like we'll say time and time again, we've been together for 33 years. Why would my money not be Sean's, and why would Sean's money not be mine? But that's completely not what would have happened. And I could have possibly lost the house. You could have possibly lost the house because the money would have gone elsewhere. And that's why it's so important, whether you're someone on your own, whether you're in partnership, or whether you're married, or whether you've been married a few times, you've got children in different... It's so important that you have a will. And the deals we've got, and I think we should look at those again, because we are, I know, so busy this morning, and I'm not surprised. I think it's something we've all put off. We all think or presume will be okay, and we're realising now it's not going to be. And actually, for £89 tonight, you could sort all of that out. Well, actually, we'll split that to 4 payments, £22.25. The first of those 4 payments should be £180, £89, split over 4 payments. That's probably less than what you spend on coffee a month.
It's about 70p a day.
Don't.
70p a day.
So it is, isn't
Yeah.
it? If everyone buys a coffee every day, I can't believe the price of coffee.
Oh, don't get me started.
Don't get me started.
my
on the
word.
price of
The
anything.
interesting. Sorry, I've cut across you there.
No,
haven't I,
it's
Ellie?
all right.
But we all spend money on things that we think we should spend money on. We'll all sometimes insure things. You know, we'll insure our phones, we'll insure
Yeah.
our boiler, we'll insure our pet.
We'll
pay-
upgrade our phones constantly.
We'll pay for something that we think might happen, hoping that it doesn't. But then something that's an inevitability that we know is going to happen is so important, we don't bother paying for that because we don't think about it.
Yeah.
I think
So
a lot
we waste a lot of money on stuff
Yeah.
that's never going to be claimed on.
Yep.
And yet we don't spend money on something that's so
So
important
important.
and is guaranteed to be used.
Yeah.
I think we, so many of us just presume it will be all right, and you're hearing tonight it won't be. And for such little cost, it can happen. What you want to happen and what loved ones you want to have things, and honestly, you can actually get those. Or actually, perhaps you don't want someone to have something, but actually, if you passed away, there's a possibility they might get that. It's making sure what you want to happen actually happens. Now, lasting power of attorney, and we will go into a little bit more detail of that, should be £325, £179 is your price today, and 4 payments splits it to £44.75, and that's like, we paid more than that for a takeaway the other night.
Easily, yeah. And then the best deal, the best offer from Simpler Law is if you combine the two. If you want to go for the will and the LPA, it should be a price of £505. It's better than half price, £249. And again, offering you those 4 interest-free payments, £62.25 on your first of 4 payments there. Remember, the first 250 clients to get in touch will get that book. It's amazing, What My Family Should Know book. It's where you keep everything, so everything's in one place. If someone does pass, you've got all the utility bills, pensions, it could be bank accounts, it could just be passwords for your computer.
So, yeah,
and
so
your
much
phone.
is on there, isn't
Yeah.
it? You might need emails, you might photographs that you might lose. You've got all the information there. And the other lovely thing is, not only have you got really great deals to make sure what you want to happen actually happens, and then that everything's easy for, well, it's going to be hard enough, isn't it, that someone's lost an absolute loved one, and now they're fighting over what they thought was going to happen because they knew really what you wanted, but it's not written down. You must have a will, and lasting power of attorney just as important. But the great thing is you've got those deals tonight, and it's so easy to get in touch and secure them.
Yeah, really simple.
That's all you're
and
doing
straightforward.
tonight, isn't
That's
it?
all you're doing. You don't need any information. The team are in the call centre, but if you want to email simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, a couple of simple questions, just your contact details there. If you want to call, as I say, the client care team are in the call centre right through till 3 a.m. You don't need to have any documentation with you.
No tricky
you don't
questions.
Need, no tricky questions for you. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number, but the most popular way on these evening shows is if you just want to send a text, and text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and then the team will get in touch with you later on today after 11 a.m. Simple, straightforward, you're just making that first step.
And you are doing something really amazing for your loved ones, making sure what you want to happen actually does happen. Don't forget, you can get in contact via our website as well. If you're used to using that, shopontv.co.uk, and then click on to Simpler Law. It's right in the middle of that first page. There's the deals. Scroll down. Very simple. Name, telephone number, email, three easy questions. Submit, and you're ready to go. And you are securing those deals and making sure you get that fabulous book as well. I know for so many people watching, you might be thinking, oh, do I need a will? Absolutely. Everybody needs a will, don't they? And there's so many stories, and I don't know which one to ask about first. I'm going
Go to Helen.
I'm going to ask you, Ian. I'm going to ask you, Ian.
Helen's so much more interesting and articulate than me.
Because this one, because I understand how this man was thinking, because a man in sort of his 40s, wasn't he?
Yeah, we can presume, can't we?
He was, well, you presume, yeah. He hadn't got children, he wasn't married, so he possibly thinking, well, actually, I've got no one to leave anything to, really. I'll wait till I get married, I'll wait till I have children. I probably story, and or perhaps he was just presuming what he wanted to happen would happen. But he died very early in life, and what actually happened, I would also presume he definitely wouldn't have wanted to happen because he didn't have a will.
Well, I think we're overusing presumption, but that's the whole point. This gentleman, the story was that he grew up, his mother brought up 2 boys on her own, so that's what he knew and what he understood, and it's perfectly understandable. He probably thought, well, my brother will get my estate or my mum will get my estate because those were in his mind next of kin. But unfortunately, the backstory was the reason that mum brought up 2 boys on her own is that when this poor gentleman passed away when he was born, his dad left the family to never be heard of or heard from or seen again. So for 4 or 5 decades, not a part of this gentleman's life. So when he passed away, he'd not got a will, so he did die intestate. So this set of rules that was made in 1925 that you've all got if you haven't made a will is now going to distribute his estate, and it's a series of yes/no questions. The first question is, are you married in a civil partnership? This gentleman never got married, so the answer was no. The next question it takes you to is, do you have children? As we've explained, he didn't have children, so the answer was no, which takes you to the next question, which was, do you have parents? Well, the answer was yes. His mum was obviously still alive, so she's heartbroken because she's lost a son, but she now has to track down her ex-husband that walked out on them 50 years ago and explain that not only has his youngest son died that he had nothing to do with anyway, but that he's now entitled to half of his estate. And this is not an unusual story, and it's not really exceptional. It's just life unfolding, and sadly there's hundreds, thousands, if not tens of thousands of stories like this, and we see them almost daily, unfortunately, because it's not unusual for there to be a blended family now, or for there to be an unusual situation, well, not an unusual situation, but a situation that doesn't meet the rules of intestacy.
The old rule, yeah.
Quite often, when the reason we do these shows, we want people to think about it because we don't. And if you want to take control, if you want to know that what you want to happen is going to happen, in all seriousness, the only way to do that is to make your will. There's only 4 of us sat here. How can we possibly all have the same will? All our situations are different. That will is actually currently for millions of people in the UK. It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense that there has to be a default position, but it doesn't make sense if you think about it, because everyone's situation is standard. But unfortunately, it has no regard for your wishes, has no regard for your family. It's not bespoke in any shape or form, and it can be absolutely catastrophic. So when you know that and you understand that, that's why we do these shows. Please make a will, because you won't regret doing that, but your family may very well regret that you didn't, because you can leave a real mess behind at what's already a really terrible time.
And I really...
It's all those different situations.
Yeah, that's it.
For us,
everybody.
Again, we say it over and over again. As a couple who've been together for so many years, we just presumed that we would get each other's whatever we had.
And we so wouldn't. And Helen, people that are married would obviously presume each other would get their money.
Definitely.
But even that's not
It's not.
simple as
No,
that.
it depends on the size of the estate. The spouse gets something called a statutory legacy, which is a fixed amount under the law, and then everything else gets divided up depending on what other family and relationships you've got. But it also affects people who don't have any close family as well. One that stands out to me that we had as a probate case, so we dealt with the estate administration, and this was quite sad because this chap had tried to put a will together and done it himself and not done a very good job of it. So we knew what his wishes were, and he didn't have any close family, but his next door neighbour, they'd lived next door to each other for something like 50, 60 years, and they were best friends and they saw each other every day. And he had no family, and he tried to write a will leaving everything to, and he described him personally in the will and said, you know, for the friendship you've shown me and all this kind of thing. But because he didn't sign that will correctly, he died intestate.
Oh, that's made my hairs go on end. That's so upsetting.
And because he didn't even have close family, we had to trace family, and we ended up tracing cousins through about 3 or 4 different countries, and these people had never even met him. They didn't know him. He was actually quite wealthy. He had quite a lot of money in bank accounts, and he had additional property. So this was quite a large estate that then ended up going to complete strangers.
We didn't even
How
know.
upsetting.
Yeah.
Because he'd done it wrong.
And it was worse because we
so
knew that he didn't want that to happen, but because he hadn't taken advice, hadn't got it done correctly, it didn't happen.
And Ian, that's what can happen if you use templates and things. And, you know, that's the exact reason why we shouldn't use a template.
Well, Helen mentioned there, I mean, he's written it as a layperson would expect to write it, but he's also not signed it correctly. And even in this digital age, unfortunately, a will's not valid until it's dated, signed and witnessed correctly. And we help you do all of that. When you use a professional company like us, not only do we hold your hand through the whole process, we make sure that you're happy with the advice that we give you, and it's up to you what you do with that advice. You're happy with the instructions that you've given us, and then you get the document. But then we talk you through that document, make sure you understand it, make sure that you're happy with it, and we make sure that it gets signed and witnessed and dated correctly so that it's actually going to be fit for purpose and will work. When you go and do a template, there's no one to give you the advice. All of our work, by the way, is insured as well.
Yes.
So if we make a mistake, because we're the professionals, we're giving you the advice, if we make a mistake, you and your family are insured. Touch wood, we've never had a will fail, we've never had a claim against our insurance because we do the job right. But if you make a mistake yourself, you can't sue yourself, you know, and you're not getting that advice. And I always come back to, if you need a professional, use a professional. I tried to fit a kitchen once. What did I do that for?
There are people for that.
Are you still married?
Specialists.
Was it a risky time?
I'd rather not answer that question. But in all seriousness, it's funny because I decided that I was going to fit this kitchen and have a go at it, and it was an okay job, but of course there were things I couldn't possibly know.
Yeah.
And here's the irony, one of my best friends is a joiner. And of course he comes in and just starts laughing, going, why have you done that, why have you done that? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I get a toothache, I'm not going to start getting some pliers and have a go myself, I'm going to go to a dentist. So I don't understand when it comes to a will, which is so important. The heartbreaking thing about the story Helen just shared there is this gentleman knew what he wanted to do, and instead of using a professional for not a lot of money and making sure it happened, it ended up that his best friend, who he wanted to inherit, got nothing at all, and it went
to bank.
Yeah, and it went strange. It is heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
And people might be listening to me now going, well, there must have been something you can do. No, we live in a land of law. We have to follow the law. And the law is you either die with a valid will and what you want to happen happens, or you don't die with a valid will and then the rules of intestacy kick in and the law dictates what happens there. And this is why you don't want to die intestate. So if you are sat watching this and you're thinking, I should have a will, don't worry about whether you know what you want to happen or not, just know that you want to do it. Text the word will to 66777. We will call you back later this morning, or the team is still there now. If you phone 0333 600 2600, just secure one of the deals. I promise you, you won't regret doing that. It'll be one of the best things and the most selfless things that you've...
It's like that first step, isn't it, that you've perhaps been putting off and thinking is petrifying. It honestly isn't petrifying at all. It's so simple to do and it's so affordable to do right now as well. So please do either email in or phone or text in and make sure you secure the deals, which we will give you the details for those in a moment as well, because I think it's really important that you make sure you grab that whilst the offers are there.
Yeah, and with a will, Helen, there are so many benefits because there's so many things you can put in a will that you might not even think about.
Yeah, that's right. Most people understand that it's all about leaving your assets to certain people, but there is so much more you can do within a will. You need to choose your executors to start with, and that's a really important role. You know, this is the person who is going to look after your estate, and you want to make sure that that person is not only someone that you can trust to do that, but someone who is willing to do it as well. Yeah. I mean, they take on personal responsibility. We have a lot of our clients who say, actually, can you do this for us? Because it's such a huge role.
It's a job, isn't it?
It's
a job, yeah.
And it is personal liability. And other things you can do, under the rules of intestacy, if you've got children, they inherit at 18. There's no, you know, you can't decide anything different. Whereas in your will, you might think, I think that's a bit young, maybe 21, 25, that's a more reasonable age. So you can actually dictate what age your children have to be before they inherit. You can pass on family heirlooms or specific gifts or charitable legacies. You know, people give to charities all their life and then perhaps want to carry that on after their death as well. Even things like funeral wishes, which is something that's so personal and which actually can cause a lot of arguments after death if nobody knows what mum or dad would have wanted. you can document all that in your will as well. So there's so much that you can do. It's not just about passing on assets. So people thinking, well, I haven't got much to leave.
You don't need to be rich, do you, to write a will?
No, there's so many more personal things that you can do. And looking after your pets, you know, I mean, my dog means the world to me, and I'd want to know that she was going to be looked after, and I'd perhaps want to leave a little cash gift to whoever took her and made sure that she was looked after, but whoever was looking after her wasn't out of pocket. All those kind of things. And we speak to so many different people on a daily basis, and everyone has different priorities. You know, for some people it's all about the tax. I don't want to pay inheritance tax. How do I structure my will to avoid paying tax? For other people it's the strangest little things, like we've had a clock that's been passed down through generations and it always goes to the youngest girl, and I need to make sure that's just things like that that are really personal. If you die without a will in place, none of that is taken into account. There is nothing personal about the rules of intestacy. The only way you can guarantee it happens is to make sure you've got a will in place. So that's why we do these shows. We want people to understand how important this is and what a great thing it is to do for your family.
However much or however little you've got, it is so important that if you want things to happen, they're truly not going to happen unless you have a will in place, and a will that has been done correctly as well. That story was so upsetting.
So important that you've got it done correctly, that it's signed correctly and by specialists, by experts. Let's run you through the offers, because we want to talk about lasting powers of attorney.
The nice thing is it's so affordable as well. Perhaps, you know, I thought writing a will would be so expensive. And even if you were paying £180 tonight to make sure everybody that you love got what you wanted them to have, and perhaps the ones you don't like didn't get what they might get if you don't write a will, £180 is money well spent. But actually our deal tonight, if you secure it, £89, and you can split that over 4 payments, £22.25, which is probably the cost of the coffee that you buy in a month, or less than the cost of coffee. And then lasting power of attorney, like you say, we are going to go into detail with this next.
Yeah, if you want to go for a lasting power of attorney, it should be £325. The offer at ShopOnTV tonight is £179, and if you want to split that cost, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments.
And we set that up for my mum through Simpler Law before they were with us here on ShopOnTV. It absolutely amazing. It's so easy. It was something that petrified me. It was so easy to do. They make it so just like a conversation. You don't really need to know anything. They'll chat you through absolutely everything. You might decide you want to go for both, and that's the will and lasting power of attorney. £505 is what it should be. You've got a better than half price deal there at £249, and again you can split that cost to just £62.52. And don't forget, the first 250 clients will get that brilliant book. It's worth £25. What My Family Should Know. And in there you fill it in, and it's all the details your family would need if you did pass or when you do pass, and that bank details, pension details, passwords to your phone and your iPad and things, because if they haven't got that, your life could be on there, or your photographs or emails they need. So easy to get in touch with us as well.
Yeah, dead straightforward for you. Now, if you want to go online, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. If you want to call the call centre, the client care team are there. They're there right through till 3 a.m. So please do get in touch. They'll be happy to take your call. 0333 600 2600. And you don't need any documents. It's really straightforward. You're just securing the deal, remember, tonight, and making sure you get that book that Hayley was just talking about. Or if you want to text, this is always really popular on the evening shows. They'll get back to you tomorrow after 11, or today after 11, I should say. Text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777, and we know lots of you have used that service.
I would text, because it's really easy, isn't it? But actually do jump on the phones. They're there till 3 a.m. and they're an amazing team. You could probably ask a couple of questions tonight, but then they'll get back with you know, an appointment date. So, and you've secured your deal and you've got your book. But if you want to text, that's what I'd do. It's really simple. You can go through our website as well if you like. So if you're used to using our website, shopontv.co.uk, you've perhaps noticed actually the yellow banner which says Simpler Law, and you click onto that, it'll take you straight to their website and our deals. So they are deals with us here on ShopOnTV, and then just fill in your details, a few easy questions, and then submit that, which is fabulous. But what we are going to go into now, because I think we've all heard of a will, haven't we? And you've probably thought, I must get a will done, and you haven't, and you're perhaps thinking, now I'm going to do it. But lasting power of attorney, only sadly because we had to discover
Yep.
lasting power of attorney, you might not have heard about. And it is, well, Helen, it's just as important as the will, isn't it?
It is, but you're absolutely right. Until you find yourself in those circumstances, a lot of people haven't heard of
Wouldn't
them
even
or
know, no.
don't understand how important it is. But it is a really important document. So this is a document that means if something happened to you and you couldn't make decisions for yourself, so if you had an illness or had an accident, we all hear about dementia being on the rise because people are living longer, and sadly lots more people are being affected by this. If something like that happens to you in the future, this document gives somebody that you know and trust the authority to speak on your behalf, to make decisions on your behalf if you're no longer able to do so. But you have to do it now. You have to do it now while you're fit and well, while you can make decisions about who you want to act. So normally it's a spouse or a child or a partner or a best friend or a loved one that you know would make the right decisions for you. It needs to be someone who knows you, you know, someone who would know what kind of medical treatment you would want to receive or how to manage your finances and things like that. But you have to do it now. It's something that's really important.
And but there's misconceptions with wills, there's misconceptions with
Yeah.
a lasting power of attorney, or what you presume. If my mum was extremely poorly and she
Yeah.
couldn't do, I would instantly presume that I could do everything for
Yeah,
her.
you
and
would.
that's not the case.
Yeah, because you'd think that everybody would be on your
step
in.
side,
Yeah.
that you
They know
were
I've always
struggling.
been there for her. Of
Yeah,
course.
you'd obviously want to do the right thing for your mum, which would be the case, but sadly it's not always the case. And when somebody loses capacity, they then become an important person to protect, and quite rightly so. They're now a vulnerable person that is open to kind of financial abuse and things like that. So it then becomes really important to make sure the right person is acting. And if you haven't got a document that gives you legal authority, you can't just make decisions. You haven't got a voice on behalf of that person. You certainly can't do anything for them. You know when you phone up your utility provider and you want to talk about changing your tariff or whatever you're doing, the first thing they say is, are you the account
Yeah.
holder?
Yes,
Are you
yeah.
the bill payer? Are you the account holder? And if you're not, they say, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't discuss
help
this
you,
with
yeah,
you,
can't do
which is
anything else.
exactly right. But if you're in a situation where you're trying to help someone who can't do it for themselves, it then becomes really difficult, especially at a time when you're trying to care for them, especially if it happens suddenly, and suddenly you've got all this to deal with and you're trying to do something to help, you know that you're doing your best for that person, but to all these authorities, you've got no legal right to be acting on their behalf. So without this document in place, you can find yourself really struggling to help them.
And Ian, it's important again for everyone, isn't it? Lasting powers of attorney.
It is. I think the obvious difference between a lasting power of attorney is about when you're alive. With a will, obviously, we know there's an inevitability to that document
will
being
be
used.
used,
Yeah. With a lasting power of attorney, again, it's selfless. But obviously you're getting something out of it because you know that if life did throw you that curveball, that you've appointed when you could the people that you trust that are going to look after you, do have your best interests at heart, which typically is, your children, your spouse, your partner. And this presumption or this belief that they can just step into your shoes, sadly, is completely wrong. So if you are unlucky and life throws you a curveball, your loved ones around you are already suffering because they're watching you suffer. That then is compounded because if you haven't made a lasting power of attorney, they can't just do what they know is the right thing for you, and that's the heartbreaking thing. So a lasting power of attorney is one of those documents that you want to have, and truthfully, you hope that your family never need to
Don't
use
want
it.
to use
Yeah.
it, yeah.
It's like have it planned for the worst, but absolutely hope for the best. Because sadly, if one day it was needed, your family may just regret that you never took the time out to draft it. Yeah.
And then it's so simple to do. I say I did Mum's lasting power of attorney, and we did both because there are two different types which we'll talk about. And my goodness, it was such peace of mind, but petrified me because I thought I won't know the answer to all the questions. It's so easy. It's just like a simple conversation, and we actually did it with Simpler Law as well before they were with us here at ShopOnTV. But the two different types, and we decided to do both of them. What are they, and what's the difference?
Yeah, so they're both equally as important, but they do very different things. So they're both documents that give somebody the authority to make decisions on your behalf, but the types of decisions are very different. So one of them is a property and financial affairs affairs. So that deals with things like opening and closing bank accounts, perhaps claiming benefits for someone, dealing with their tax affairs, maybe even managing investments for them, even simple things, daily tasks like paying your utility bills and that kind of thing. All those financial things that you'd encounter on a day-to-day basis, that document gives someone the authority to do those for you. And the other one is a health and welfare power of attorney. So this is more about your medical treatment and your care that you receive. So it can even include things like where you live and what activities you take part in, even down to simple things like what food you eat on a daily basis. You know, imagine if you can't make that decision by yourself, you'd want someone you know making those decisions, not someone that didn't know you or wasn't familiar with what you like. So it's a really powerful document, and I think they're both equally as important, but you know, for different reasons really. It's all about, again, taking control and making sure you're appointing the person that you know and trust to make those decisions for you, rather than leaving it to somebody else.
And if a family member does lose capacity and doesn't have you don't have the power of attorney in place, what happens then?
they're the worst calls that we get into the office. You know, we get a call saying, I need a power of attorney for mum, and it's like, great, okay, let's speak to her. We can take her instructions, and then they say, oh, she's had a diagnosis or she's lost capacity, and we have to then say, well, actually, it's too late at that point to put a power of attorney in place. And the only option then, we've got a court of protection team who deal with these applications, but you have to make an application to the court for something called a deputyship order. Now, that process is a lot different from creating a power of attorney. This is a really lengthy process and it's very expensive. You can see there the fees that are involved. So even just the application fee is £371. There's an assessment fee to make sure that you're the right person to act as a deputy. There's a hearing fee if the Court of Protection decide that they want a court hearing to discuss about who's gonna act as a deputy. And that supervision fee there, that £320, that's actually an annual fee.
Gosh.
So that's carried out on an annual basis for the court to supervise the deputy and make sure that they're doing everything correctly. So those, you can see that tots up to quite a hefty amount.
And you might not have that money.
No, exactly. And you can't access that person's money to pay for it because you haven't got any authority, and then you have to get the authority to be able to access the funds.
Awful catch-22.
It is. And you can imagine this at a time when you're actually trying to care for somebody and having to go through this awful court process. And this can take like a year to get a deputyship order.
The costs are awful, but the time it takes is as bad, if not worse, truthfully.
Yeah. And how do we avoid those costs? What do we need to do?
Pick up the phone. Honestly, I'm not being facetious, but I keep using this throwaway line, but it's not really throwaway. You don't regret having these documents in place. And there's part of me who wants it to be a waste of money in the weirdest way, but we will insure our boiler. We will insure our pets. We'll insure our phone. You know, we'll insure our house and our contents. We'll insure things in the hope that something might not happen. But we often forget about ourselves and our family. So whilst the lasting power of attorney isn't an insurance policy per se, it's a what-if document. It's certainly a document that you want to have in place just in case. So you want it and hope that your family never need to use it. So we spend all this money on things, protecting these tangible things, but we forget about ourselves sometimes. And you know, what we keep saying, and the reason we do these shows, is putting a will in place, putting a lasting power of attorney in place is really selfless. It doesn't diminish a death, it doesn't diminish a bereavement, and it doesn't diminish, you know, if you're watching, if you're watching a loved one, you know, suffer with something like dementia, or they've been in an accident. But having these documents in place means that already terrible situation isn't made worse. I'm not going to pretend that it makes it better, because it doesn't, but it definitely doesn't make it worse. And these are often already horrible situations. You imagine watching a loved one suffer like that, and then finding out that you've got to deal with a court process that's going to cost thousands and take up to a year. It's awful, and unfortunately we see it all the time, and it's avoidable. It's
And the thing is as well tonight, it is actually so affordable as well, because I know for me, we thought things would be just so expensive, and they're actually not. But tonight, you've got really exclusive, incredible deals with us on ShopOnTV. So if you are thinking you want to do a will, do that will today. Get in touch, secure this deal. £180 is the price it should be. I'd pay that quite happily, but actually 89 is your price today, and 4 payments of £22.25. And I keep saying this, I bet you spend more on cups of coffee in a month.
Without a doubt. Now, the lasting power of attorney that we've just been talking about, a £325 suggested retail price, down to £179 on the ShopOnTV price, £44.75 if you want to split the cost on those interest-free payments. And the combination, if you want to go for the will and the LPA, £505 is the suggested price. It's down to less than half that price, £249 or £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Remember, the first 250 clients will also receive the What My Family Should Know book. Brilliant book. It has everything in place so that you know where everything is, like passwords and utility bills, pensions and bank accounts. You put it all in that book and you know where it is, and that's worth £25. Simple to get in touch, few different ways for you.
Simplelaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV if you want to email. They'll get back in touch with you tomorrow or later on today. Or you can ring right now. They're still there waiting for those calls. I know they've been really busy. Up till 3 a.m. they'll be there. 0333 600 2600. Or lots of you doing this, and this is what I would do. It's always really busy. Texting WILL to 66777. You can go via our website as well. And for me, it'd be the text, and lots of you I know doing that. But if you want to go to our website because you use it all the time, do. There it is. Look, Simpler Law just in the centre. Click on that. Takes it through to their website. All our deals are there. You go down to the bottom, fill in your name, your phone number, email, and 3 easy questions. Click submit, and remember that is securing those deals. And the great thing is the team will get back in touch with you again later on today, so you know you've secured those deals, which is incredible. We've got to thank the team. Thank you so much. It's really great to have your company and as well, but we have got so much more to tell you. What I will say is, please make sure, if you're sat at home right now thinking, I really should do a will, I do keep putting it off, just don't put it off any longer. We would have had nothing if one of us had died. We'd been together 33 years. Obviously, Sean's is mine, mine is Sean's, but not by law.
Doesn't work like that.
It would never have been. And you'll probably presume the same because you're married and you know you've got children perhaps from different marriages. What you think will happen doesn't.
Do you know what? I don't think it's putting it off. I think you just don't get round to it. And it's so important.
Well, you think it's complicated, you think it's expensive.
So whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney, or both of them together, as you can see there on screen, the deals from Simpler Law, absolutely fabulous. And the fact that it's so simple and easy for you to get in touch, please do. The simplest way, just text the word will to 66777.
We've heard some really upsetting stories, which I hope it made me understand. It makes you understand why it's so important. Whether you're a single guy, where will your money go? Would you want it to go to your mum, your brother, your sister? It won't go to the right person unless you write that down, and write it down with Simpler Law, with a company that knows what they're doing. It's no good trying to do your own templates. It's so confusing. You can do it so wrong. Whether you're married married for the 3rd time, children with different people, and whether you've been in a partnership, whatever situation you're in, and you might think you've got nothing, but actually we've all got something. It might even be your pet that you're worried about.
Simpler Law, remember, are specialists when it comes to this, and that's what you need, a specialist who can offer you these services at such great prices.
And without you even thinking, just with a chat, they'll discover what you have and you will go with peace of mind that you've done it. And when it does happen, when you do pass, you'll have that peace of mind that you know who you love got what you wanted them to have, and perhaps who you didn't want to get things didn't get them either, because that's how it can happen. It can be completely the opposite to what you want. Don't go anywhere for now. We've still got a little bit more to tell you, but make sure you get onto the phones or email in or get onto the website and secure those deals right now.
At ShopOnTV, our shows feature a carefully curated collection of must-have items at budget-friendly prices. Many of our prices offer discounts and savings, bonus products, or other desirable perks such as free postage and packing that are for a limited time only, or while stocks last. There are exclusive online-only offers on our website too at shopontv.co.uk. So, be sure to bag the bargains before they're gone. Watch, shop and save with ShopOnTV.
Really is great to have your company. You've joined us, I think, just on the right evening. It's perhaps something you've been putting off for absolutely months or even possibly years. Perhaps it's something you don't fancy doing, worries you. It's actually putting a will together, and it's so important. And if you haven't done it, you're going to discover in this show why it is so important. Whether you're somebody on your own, whether you're a couple, whether you're married, whether you're not married, whether you've got children, whether you've got pets, it's so important.
And it might be something that you've thought about time and time again, but you've just never got round to it. That's why tonight is the perfect opportunity for you to start that process, to make that first step to writing a will. We're working with Simpler Law. They're specialists when it comes to this specialist subject, isn't it? And it's something that we don't like to talk about.
No, lasting power of attorney we'll be getting into as well. And I actually set up my mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law before they joined us here on ShopOnTV a couple of years ago, and it was so easy. They're like a friend. It's like you sit down for a chat. They make everything so simple. So don't think I don't know what I'm doing. You don't need to know what you're doing. What you need to do is just simply talk to Simpler Law. They'll chat you through absolutely everything and make it all so easy. And price-wise, if you secure the deals with us this morning, our prices are quite incredible because we presumed, and it wasn't something that put us off doing a will, we just never got round to it, didn't think we needed it, but I did think it was going to be a really expensive affair as well.
We thought it was going to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Now, the suggested retail price of the family and estate will with Simpler Law is £180, but the ShopOnTV offer price, just £89. And then they're going to offer you the opportunity to split the cost interest-free, so just £22.25 on your first of 4 payments. As Hayley said, we will be talking about lasting power of attorney. We've got a fabulous deal there as well. £325 suggested retail price, down to £179 or £44.75 on your first of 4 interest.
And I bet you spend more than that on a takeaway every month.
Gosh,
The £22.25, I bet you spend more on coffees every month. It's such a little amount to make sure what you want to happen actually does happen. It's so important. It's money so well spent, honestly. And if you want to, you might think, well, actually, I'm going to do a will and a lasting power of attorney. That should be £505. It's better than half price, £249, and that's split again over 4 payments, so £62.25. Honestly, it's your first step tonight, just securing those deals with us to make sure what you want to happen truly does happen, because it honestly won't unless you have a will, unless you have lasting power of attorney. Secure whatever deal you'll fancy. If you change your mind and think, well, actually, I'll do a will and lasting, that can be changed, but just make sure you secure the deals tonight. And also, we've got 250 books. The first 250 clients will get the What My Family Should Know book, which is amazing.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in just a few moments for you, but it's about having everything in one place. You know, when someone passes away and you have to go around to the house and you're looking for this, that.
Going through boxes and don't know where their secret places were, and they've got letters here and letters there.
Book where you keep everything,
and probably lots of it is actually on their phone and computer, and you can't get onto that because you haven't got the password. It's all in this book. It's absolutely amazing. I think we should definitely have. I did say from birth, but that's probably a little bit early. I think we should definitely have it as soon as you leave school. You should have this book and fill all that information in. And really easy to get in touch, by the way. And we are busy, so if you do think I'd like to get in touch, you can either do that on the website, and you can see that simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, or the phone lines, and they're actually on the phone lines right now, aren't they?
Yeah, the team are there right through till 3 a.m. The phone number is 0333 600 2600, or something that's very popular on our nighttime shows is if you want someone to get in touch with you tomorrow or today, depending on where you are in the day.
After 11.
After 11 a.m, yeah.
They know you've been up late. claim.
Just text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and that will secure the offer for you. And then it will also mean that you get that book that we talked about, the first 250 people to make that appointment and secure the deal.
That's been the most popular, and I think sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody right now, but I'll just text, so I've secured the deal and they'll get back to me a bit later on. And you can go through our website as well, actually, shopontv.co.uk. You can see Simpler Law right there. Click onto that and it takes you through to their website. You can see our deals, and this is really easy. Scroll down and all you fill in is your name, your phone number, email. There's a couple of really easy questions and submit that. So it's really simple to take that first step today to do something that is peace of mind and possibly the last gift to your loved ones.
It really is. Now, to tell us all about it, the specialist team from Simpler Law join us in the studio. Ian and Helen are here with us. It's lovely to have your company again.
Morning.
Thank you.
Now, Ian, straight away, for anyone at home, just explain who Simpler Law are, if you would.
We're a provider of private client legal services. We offer a full range of private client legal services, but it all starts with a will. And obviously, you've mentioned lasting power of attorney. That tends to be at the heart of what we do. But because we can offer a full range of private client legal services, it means we can meet all of our clients' needs. We don't outsource any of our work to any companies, which means we guarantee the level of work. And it also means that we can control the service standards as well, so we'll get the documents to our clients as quickly as we possibly can. But we specialise in this area. You wouldn't come to us for any other form of law. You wouldn't come to us for a divorce, a boundary dispute, personal injury claim. But if you've got assets, if you've got loved ones, if you want to take control of what happens when you're no longer here, or you want to know that someone can control what you do if you lose capacity, we're the company that you come to, because that's what we specialise in.
Great.
You got that peace of mind completely. And I know for us, Helen, we presumed that because we've been together 33 years, my money was Sean's. If I passed first, Sean's was mine. There's lots of misconceptions like that, and we discovered when we did our will that would not have happened.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of the misconceptions are around what happens if you die without a will in place, and your scenario is one of the ones that is most common, really, because people think there's something called a common law spouse. They think if you've lived together for a number of years, or if you own property together, or if you have children together, that there's some kind of legal relationship there. But actually, if one of the couple passes away, the surviving one is not entitled to anything at all from that estate, and that can have real severe consequences because it means it's all going somewhere else. But likewise, married couples, it's not guaranteed that the spouse will inherit everything. And we had a scenario the other day where someone said, well, I want my children to have everything, and it's fine, I want them to have it in equal shares. And we kind of went through the consultation, and it was only by asking further questions that we found out that she was actually still married. And she'd been separated from her children's father for kind of 20 years. It was a very long time ago, and it only came out through questioning. And we said, oh, well, it's a good job you're doing your will then, because if something had have happened to you, he'd have been entitled to a big chunk of your estate.
Wow.
And she had no idea. She says, but we've not been together for 20 years. So it's those kind of things that actually going through the consultation process with us brings out all this information, and by the end of it people are like, wow, I'm so glad I've got a will in place, because everything that would have happened if I hadn't is not what I would have wanted at all. And people don't talk about it, do they? They don't kind of get that information, they don't go looking for it. They often don't go to the right places for advice. People are chatting down the pub or speaking to their friend who knows somebody else, or their friend's a solicitor even though they work in commercial property or something like that. But we're specialists. This is what we do every single day. So we've got a highly skilled team who will extract this information and give you some really good advice along the way.
And it's so simple and straightforward. That's what we loved about it.
So easy, because things like this
scary
petrify
thing.
me.
It's the scary thing. It's the cost. It's the thought of having to talk to someone about it. But they literally hold your hand.
It's law that frightens me. I'm going to do it wrong. I'm the one with the policeman's behind me with his flashing light. I think I've done something wrong, and I know I haven't. But instantly, I know I'm going to do it wrong. And you're not going to do it wrong. It's so simple. It is a simple chat, and you don't even need to know the answer to the questions, because Simpler Law will get those answers from you, and everything will be done correctly, and that's so important. And so important as well to deal with someone like Simpler Law, because it is what you specialise in, and it's not just wills that you do, is it?
No, it's a full range of private client legal services, but you know, we do conveyancing, we do lasting power of attorney, which I know we're going to talk about later in the show. We're there to help our clients make sure that they're looked after and their loved ones are looked after. The reason we do these shows, we want to reach as many people as we can, because there is a lack of understanding out there is a lack of knowledge, and unfortunately people just assume that everything's going to be all right, as Helen said, and that assumption can be absolutely devastating when it turns out to be wrong. And unfortunately, it turns out to be wrong all the time, because what people think is going to happen actually never does happen. And it's true, there are people who have conversations with the best friend, have conversations with family members, and think it's enough to say, well, our John knows what I want to happen. And unfortunately, that's not legally binding in any shape or form. So we're around basically to make sure that your last act on earth works, but we can only help you if you give us a call. So if you're thinking about making a will, you're thinking about doing a lasting power of attorney, in the nicest possible way, stop thinking about it, send the word will to 66777, we will call you back, or the client care team are there. I always say that no one regrets putting estate planning in place, but your family might regret that you didn't, because that's absolutely true. Doing this kind of thing is really selfless, but you'll get peace of mind and you'll actually find the process cathartic. When Helen talked about we give you advice and you've been through the process, you know how it works. What you do with that advice is up to you. This is your will, this is your lasting power of attorney, this is your estate, it's your family. We're there to advise and guide you, but it's up to you how much of our advice you take, if any. But at the end of it, you'll get the document that's right for you. And your last act on planet Earth, if you like, will be yours. And you do everything
at a really nice pace. Nothing's rushed.
Pressure,
it's, you know, it's not put together until it's exactly right. It's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, we get some clients who are totally switched on, click of a finger, done.
Right.
Oh, okay. And other people, well, I might need to think about that, or I might need to think about that. Okay. So yeah, we will go at a pace that suits you. We will only draft your documents when you're happy with the advice that we've given you and you're happy with the instructions you've given us. And that takes as long as it takes, because, you know, you're our client, we put you at the heart of what we do, and we understand that this is probably the first time that you've done this. We do it every day. So it's our job to help you. We're the professionals, so we're there to guide you. That's what our role is.
Now, we've seen all the different services that you offer, and we are talking about wills at the moment. However, we are going to be talking about lasting power of attorneys, aren't we?
Yeah,
or
that's
LPAs.
right. So wills and LPAs are kind of the core of our estate planning business. This is what most of our clients come to us for. And wills, I think most people understand a bit about what a will can do. But lasting power of attorney is also an equally as powerful document. And this is a document that if something happened to you in the future, so if you had an illness or an accident which meant that you couldn't make decisions for yourself, this document gives somebody else the authority to make those decisions and to deal with your assets and to deal with your finances. But the key thing with a lasting power of attorney is that you have to do it now while you're fit and well, get the document all in place, and then if something happens in the future, it's there in place, ready to be used. So that's something we're going to talk about a lot on the show.
Yeah, we'll go more in depth.
Might never be used, but it's that peace of mind again, that the loved one you want to look after you. And there's two different types of lasting power of attorney. We actually did it for Mum with Simpler Law, and they were absolutely amazing, honestly, because things like this really do scare me. They just made it so simple, and it was just an absolute relief to know that if anything did happen, that we have got control and we can look after Mum. So it was fantastic. And we will go into a lot more detail a little bit later, but we are going to stick with the wills for now. But we must just talk very briefly about this book, because Ian, this book is fabulous. And I truly do think absolutely everybody should have this.
Yeah, it came about organically, really. One of the services we provide is estate administration. So we're there for you today, but we're also there at the point of need. And one of the things that you have to do as an executor of a will is gather that person's estate in. So you have to understand everything that they own so that you can distribute it.
Right.
So, you know, that's the obvious things like bank accounts, you know, the pension pots that are going to fall into their estate, what everyone owned. And this book was really brought together to help with that process, you know, to help our clients sit down, maybe over a brew and think, well, what have I got? What bank accounts have I got? But also things like, who are my utility providers at the moment? And you mentioned, Hayley, quite rightly, that our lives are quite digital now. You know, we don't necessarily have photo albums at home anymore, but we have photos in the cloud. But how do you access that if you haven't got the password for it? So it's a really selfless thing. Some really interesting statistics, if not frightening, actually came out of when we were putting this together, that it's believed there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots out there. So where people have passed away and they've invested into a pension, that's not gone to their loved ones. Yeah, exactly right, exactly right. Same with life insurance policies. It's believed that there's £2 billion worth of unclaimed life insurance policies. And there's £850 million floating around in UK banks that should be with your loved ones that isn't. And it's because they've not been found. So this book it's been received really well, but it was born out of the estate administration. It just lets you take stock, but it really helps, you know, at the point of need. So yeah, it's incredibly popular, and we're giving the first 250 clients it for free.
Which is fantastic. I know lots of people want to buy this, and there's so many things. All your digital accounts, your websites, your email, your photos and
all
things,
those policies,
music, social media, and it's all in there. So it's just so easy to find, because where would you find all that information? So much can be lost, as Ian was saying, but it's all in that book. So I think that's so important. And the first 250 people will actually get that if you're just securing the deal with us this morning.
That's why you should get in touch now, because
definitely.
of that bonus, if you like, alongside the prices that Simpler Law are offering to us. Now, why should anyone at home, Helen, if they're watching, choose Simpler Law for these services?
Yeah, it's such an important decision, isn't it? You know, there are a lot of providers out there, but you want to choose somebody who you know are experts, and this is what we do every single day. You know, we've got 200,000 clients all over the UK who have used our services for writing their wills and powers of attorney. We've got an excellent, highly qualified and skilled team of people, both our client care team and our document drafters and our compliance team, all these people that work together to make sure that the documents you get are going to do exactly what you want them to. We've got a 5-star Trustpilot rating as well, so our clients have actually taken the time to go and leave us a review and to share that we've done a good job for them, which we're particularly proud of. But I think the most important thing is that we put the client at the heart of everything that we do. So everything we do is focused on that individual and making sure that they get everything that they need, all the advice they need, all the help and guidance they need. And at the end of the day, they've got the documents that do exactly what they want to happen. They tell us what they want to achieve, and we show them how to make sure that happens. We've all seen wills and legal documents, and they're all written in this legal jargon and all that kind of thing. We make sure that the document and all that legal jargon actually translates into something that achieves what they want it to.
And why is it so important to make a will? Because we didn't think it was really important, because we just, again, presumed it's...
I think you think you should have one, don't you? But
I think most people do. I think most people who'll be watching will think, yeah, I know I need to do this. And that's kind of the look that people get, I need to do that.
I've had so many people. Where was I just the other day, and I was talking about our show, and they said exactly that. Oh, I know, it was my cousin. And she says, oh, yeah, we must. And I was like, you haven't got a will.
And they've got children.
They've got children.
Marriages.
Marriages.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to.
Life gets in the way, and there's sexier things to spend your money on, isn't there, in your head? But it's such an important thing, and when if you take a minute to think about it and understand it, you wouldn't hesitate.
Yeah.
Because the consequences of not having a will in place can be catastrophic. You know, and that's why we do these shows. You know, that's why we're here in the early hours of the morning. We want to reach as many people as we can, because we know that it makes a huge difference. This isn't a document that might be used. This is a document that definitely will be used.
Yeah.
And I'll say it again, you will not regret putting estate planning in place. But unfortunately, we see it all too often that your family regrets that they didn't. So when you see people who go, I've been meaning to do that, unfortunately, one day it's too late. So you've got to do it now. So if you're thinking about it, just do it.
And what happens when it is too late? If you haven't got a will,
well,
what goes on?
It sounds melodramatic when I say catastrophic, but we literally do see it every day. If you don't make a will, in the UK, there's something called the rules of intestacy. Now, that's designed to capture everybody's estate where they haven't made their own will. So you might be sat there thinking, I haven't got a will, but actually you have. You've got a government will if you've not made your own, if that makes sense, because something has to happen to your estate. And unfortunately, this rules of intestacy was put in place in 1925. So it was designed around society in 1925, where people, you know, divorce wasn't huge. You certainly didn't see blended families like you do today. And by that, I mean, you might see people that are on a second relationship. They may have children from previous relationships. They may have children together. the rules of intestacy can rip that family apart because it's all about your marital status and it's all about your bloodline. And so unfortunately, it's not enough to say to your best friend or to a family member, this is what I want to happen, because if you've not got a legally binding document, i.e. a will, when you pass away, you're said to have died intestate, and those rules are going to kick in. And they don't care about you, they don't care about your family. There's only 4 of us here now. I dare say all of our situations are different, but yet we would all get the same will. It doesn't make any sense. And this is your last act on planet Earth. You know that you've worked hard for everything that you've got, and you probably know deep down what you would want to happen to that. Don't leave it to chance. Pick up the phone now or send a text, because the only way that you can guarantee that what you want to happen is to make a will, because you've taken control. If you don't take control and make a will, the government will deal with the estate for you, and no one wants that.
No.
And there's lots of people at Simply Law ready on the phones right now. Tell us a little bit about your client care team.
Yeah, they're brilliant. And look, this is their job. So, you know, you've said that people sometimes put it off because they're worried it might be, you know, morbid, complicated,
yeah.
expensive. They make it so easy because they know the job, as Helen said quite rightly. So we put the client at the heart of what we do. We're really proud of the Trustpilot rating that we've got. The excellent Trustpilot rating actually has got very little to do with the company. It's about the individual that you're dealing with. You said yourself that the person you spoke to was really helpful.
Yeah, fab.
So Trustpilot often says that Jack was great, or Megan was great,
Right.
Charlotte was great, Kim, Gemma. So it's the person that you're speaking to, because they understand that you're probably doing this for the first time. So as condescending as this sounds, I don't mean it to, they will hold your hand through the whole process.
That's what we said, yeah.
Absolutely, because, you know, again, you can only know what you know, so we're there to give you that information. You then decide what you do with the advice that we give you, but at the end of it, you get the document that's right for you and your family. If you don't make a will, you don't get any documents. Your estate's just going to be distributed according to a set of rules that was basically created in 1925. And you don't want that.
No.
You don't want that, I promise
Really
you.
don't.
And Helen, it's really easy, isn't it? What's the first thing we need to do today?
Yeah, so today is all about getting in touch with us. That's all that needs to happen. You don't need to know what you want in your will. You don't need to know. You haven't thought about executors and things like that and all these things. What will actually happen is that today is making that contact, securing the deal, and then what we'll do is we'll contact you to arrange an appointment at a convenient time. So a time where you can sit at home with a cup of tea and we can go through the consultation. But even before that, we'll send you some information so that you know the kinds of questions that we're going to be asking, and to give you a bit of time to think about it and things like that. So if you're thinking, I don't even know where to start, I don't even know what goes into a will, I don't know about all this kind of thing, don't worry, we'll give you that information and we'll talk you through it. Today is all about making contact. It's about making that first step. It's stop putting it off and actually pick up the phone. I know everyone is sat there now and their mobile phone is right next to them. Just pick it up and send that text. It's really simple to do.
And should everybody make a will?
Absolutely, yeah, everybody. People will be thinking, well, actually, I don't really own very much, you know, or my situation is really simple and I know what's going to happen. I've looked on a search engine, I've found out what's going to happen. Don't take that risk. You know, there are things that are important to people that you don't even think about. And one thing that's coming up more and more is people's pets. You know, people are caring about what happens to their pets when they're no longer around. Never mind the families and the money and things like that. It's what's going to happen to my pet and who's going to look after them and all those kind of things. It might be something really personal, like actually I want to document what I want to happen at my funeral, and you can do that within a will. So that's really important and something that's really personal. And things like appointing guardians for children. You know, anyone who's got a child under the age of 18 needs to get a will in place to make sure that they're appointing guardians. We don't want to think about something happening to us while our children are still young, but it does happen and you need that will in place to do that.
Definitely.
And if you haven't, what you think will happen honestly doesn't, the complete opposite, and it could be so heartbreaking for the family you leave behind, the family that you love, your loved ones, knowing what you wanted, but that can't happen because it wasn't put down in a will. It's so important, and this morning it's so easy to take that first step.
Yeah, you've just got to get in touch. Let's run you through the offers that we've got for you, because it's not only wills. As we say, we're going to be talking more in depth about lasting powers of attorney in a little while, but we want to run you through these and make sure that you can get in touch, take advantage for the first 250 people to get that book, that What My Family Should Know book, as a bonus for the first 250. So if we start with the wills, family and estate will, a suggested retail price of 180, the ShopOnTV offer price £89. Now, Simple Law are also offering the opportunity to split the cost for interest-free payments, £22.25 on your first of 4 payments if you want to go for the will offer that we've got for you.
And I bet you spend that every month on coffee. And you're actually writing a will, getting a proper will put together that you know is legally binding, and everything you want to happen is going to happen. Now, lasting power of attorney, we'll go into more detail in that. £325 is the price it should be. £179 is the price that it is if you secure that deal tonight. 4 payments of £44.75. And I did lasting power of attorney for my mum with Simpler Law, and it was one of the best things we ever did. Such peace of mind now, but it was so simple. And honestly, anything sort of law-wise or technical, everything frightens me. It was so easy to do. And then you can, and you might decide, secure the will tonight, and you might think, well, actually, when you have the appointment, I'd rather do the will and the lasting power of attorney. I know they'll sort it all out for you, but if you want to secure the will and power of attorney now, £505 is the price it should be. It's better than half price, £249, and 4 payments of £62.25. And like Sean was saying, the first 250 people will get that fabulous book as well. So easy to get in touch, and you can do it in many ways. You might be sat at home thinking, I don't really want to talk to anybody right now. You can jump onto the website, and you can do it via the website. You can go to the Simpler Law website. You can call and speak to someone right now, because they're right there in the call centre until 3 a.m. and you can text as well. So here's all the ways to get in touch. So either simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, and they'll get back to you then and arrange a meeting. But it's securing the deal right now and getting that book. Or they can call.
You can call. It's 0333 600 2600. And the team, as we said, the client care team are in place right through till 3 a.m. So if you want to get in touch right now, very straightforward, very simple. They are probably very busy in there, but you will have the opportunity to secure that deal and make sure you get that book.
And they're right there till 3 a.m. and they're great to talk to as well. So do jump onto the phones. But what's really popular is texting. I think it's just really easy, isn't it? I'm quite happy to text rather than talk to someone probably at this time in the morning. So text Will to 66777. Again, you're securing that deal. They'll get back in touch with you this morning. I have to think, is it today, tomorrow, this morning? But later on, after 11 a.m. They know you've been up late with us, so do not. And you can go through our website, shopontv.co.uk. You can just click onto Simpler Law. It's right on that first page. Takes you through to their website. All our deals are there. Just fill in a little bit of information, 3 easy questions, submit, and you have taken that first step to make sure what you want to happen is going to happen and is going to go to your loved ones, and not to possibly the people you don't want it to go to. That's another upsetting thing, isn't it?
That's the opposite of it, isn't it? Now, Ian, another question that I think is really important. Why do you think people don't get round to actually making a will?
Well, the lack of knowledge for a start. There's a lot of apathy. You know, people, as we've said already, think that everything's going to be okay. Or if they are thinking about making a will, which we do get often, you know, if someone says, what do you do for a living? I say, I'm a will writer, and immediately, I've been thinking about making a will. I pretend to be shocked because it's the first time I've heard it. But in all seriousness, people think it might be morbid. People think it might be complicated. People certainly put it off because they think it's going to be expensive. Well, obviously the reason we do these shows and these exclusive offers is to get rid of the expensive side of it. And people think that it's going to be beyond them sometimes. You know, I don't want to deal with it. But all I would say is give us a chance, because honestly, it's such an amazing thing that you're doing, not just for you, but ultimately for your family. It's a really selfless thing. So all the reasons that you think you don't want to do it, when you actually go through it, you'd be surprised. We often hear, I wish I'd have done this sooner, but at least they're glad they've done it now. Because that's the thing. Hearing your story is actually quite nice, because you realised there was a problem and you fixed it.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is people realise the problem after it's too late. is, you know, unmarried partners, one of them passes away, so the survivor's already heartbroken and then learns that they're not getting a penny of the partner's money. It's catastrophic.
That would have been us, and we had no idea at all, and could probably happily just carried on thinking, oh, we should write a will, I suppose. But everybody knows my money's Sean's money's mine, so it'll be fine. It so would not have been fine. Like you say, you're already heartbroken. Because what actually does happen, for anyone at home thinking, well, what does happen? Because surely it would go to each other. What does happen?
If you don't make a will, your estate is distributed by something called the rules of intestacy. So we call it the government will. There's a default position in the UK. So if you've not made your own will, the government gives you one. It's a set of rules that was established in 1925, and it's all based around your marital status. So it's whether you're married or not, and it's about whether you have children or not, and ultimately a series of yes or no questions about the person that's passed away determines where your estate goes. And it's not always where you would want it to go. In fact, quite often it isn't. And certainly, because those rules were designed in 1925, society was very different 100 years ago. So it would have been extremely rare to see families that, you know, might have parents who are on the second or third marriage, where there's children from previous relationships, they may have children together. It doesn't cater for that family. And, you know, it's not unusual now if we speak to Mr. and Mrs. Smith and it's just their second marriage, and maybe Mr. Smith's got a daughter from a previous relationship, Mrs. Smith's got a daughter from a previous relationship. They've been a blended family for the last 20 years. I totally understand why they think that everything will go to each other and then down to the girls in equal shares. We hear that a lot. But unfortunately, if Mr. passed away, it doesn't really matter who passed away first, but if Mr. passed away first, everything might go to Mrs., but then when Mrs. passes away, it only goes to her daughter. So his daughter misses out completely, and people will be screaming at the TV going, yeah, but that's not right, that's not fair. But no matter how unfair you think it is, legally that's what happens.
Without a will.
Without a will. It's all about control. You've worked hard for everything that you've got. No one's given it to you. So if you want to know what's going to happen to it when you're no longer here, take control and make a will. For the sake of £22 a month, you can remove all the ifs, buts and maybes, and you can control what happens.
And it's absolutely everybody, whether you're, you know, Mr. and Mrs., whether you're in a partnership, whether you're unmarried, married, whether you've got children, you haven't got children, or whether you're just single. And I'm going to get you to tell this story again, because this in my head, I think I know exactly what this man was thinking. A gentleman that died quite early in life, and he wasn't married, he didn't have children, so he probably thought, don't need to write a will just yet because I've got no one really to leave anything to. I'll do it when I get married, when I have children. And he died, and what I would presume he wanted to happen really didn't happen, and what happened must have really upset the family even more. Yeah,
I'm not exaggerating when we say hundreds. There are hundreds of stories like this because, you know, life just happens. No one does this deliberately, but this young man didn't make a will. He'd got a successful career, he'd never got married, he'd never had children, and he died unexpectedly. So that's just life being life, it's just being awful. But the backstory was, when this gentleman was born, his father at that time decided that he was going to leave the family. So he left, and basically Mom was there to bring up the two boys on her own. So now Mom's heartbroken because her youngest son's passed away. But then this tragic event gets compounded because the gentleman didn't make a will. He died intestate. So the rules of intestacy kicks in. The first question that's asked of the person that's passed away is, are you married or in a civil partnership? It's that simple. It's yes or no. There isn't, are you cohabiting, are you in love? No. It's, are you married or in a civil partnership? And this gentleman wasn't, so the answer was no. So that takes you to another question, which is, do you have children? He didn't have children, so the answer again is no. That takes you to the next question, which is, do you have parents? And in this case, we understood that both his parents were alive. In fact, his mum was part of this interview. Everything was distributed equally between his mum and dad. So the dad that had walked out on him when he was a baby, that he'd had no relationship, no birthday cards, no contact, no nothing. Yeah. And people again will be going, but that's not right, that's not fair, how can that happen? Well, I don't think anyone did that deliberately.
No, not at all.
Because if they genuinely knew that was going to happen, why didn't they fix it? Or did he know that was going to happen and just thought, well, I'm only in my 40s, so I've got time to do it. And
that'll be okay, yeah.
You don't know how he was thinking. No, that's it. But
I'll do it
he
next,
would have been heartbroken, wouldn't he?
I'll do it next year, I'll do it when I'm in my 50s, I'll do it when I'm in my 60s. Do it today. Get your affairs in order today and then forget about it, because you don't regret doing that. But in that case, his family definitely regret. His poor mom has had to go through that. This is what sort of
even more upsetting. She had to get in contact with
it hit
that
me. She had to track down her ex-husband who walked out on him decades ago and said, "Our son's passed away. By the way, you're entitled to half of his estate." You know, it's not right.
Heartbreaking.
And so important in any situation. So for a single guy, but also obviously if you're married, and definitely if you're in a second marriage or a third marriage, and you've got children from different families. But actually, if you've got children at all, so important to have a will in case awfully. I mean, what happens if something happens to both of you and your children are left behind?
Yeah, you can end up in a really horrible scenario. So obviously in a will we talked about you can appoint guardians. So this is choosing people that you know and trust and that the children are familiar with that will take over that role of kind of parenting them as they grow up. So this is choosing someone that your children will live with and who will bring them up. So it's a really important role. Now, if you don't have a will and don't do that, you're effectively hoping that the right person steps forward. So it could be somebody that you wouldn't want to have the children who could step forward. It might be that different sides of the family will be like, oh no, they'd have wanted us to have the children, you know, and they could then start an argument about that, and that could, obviously, these children have lost their parents and they're going through a horrendous time, and then there's all this uncertainty and confusion going on as well. And what can happen, and fortunately it is quite rare, but the children could even be taken into temporary care while everything's sorted out, which is just a horrible thing to think about. And it's so easy to do something about. I don't know why anyone with children under the age of 18 would take that risk when they can put a will in place, really simply, really affordable, and just avoid that from happening.
I think, truthfully, they don't know the risk exists.
Well, that's the thing, is that misconception that you presume.
They will say something like, well, I've told my sister.
Yeah.
Well, telling someone, they'll say, well, they've got godparents.
Yeah.
None of that's legally binding. If you think about it, if you've got children in school and you're asked to sign a permission slip, it asks, are you the parent or the guardian?
Yeah.
It's a legal status, yeah. It's not, you know, did you agree to look after the kids down the pub? Yeah. And I'm not being facetious, but unfortunately, that's not enough. No. And it can be devastating. Again, a really awful time can be made so much worse.
So much worse.
Yeah,
because you're heartbroken already. Yeah. And then that.
Well, the poor kids, like Helen said, it's extreme. But in worst case scenarios, they end up in the care system. But worse than that, as a parent, you're probably sat there. If you are a parent now and you're watching this, you're probably sat there going, yeah, well, I know that it would be my sister or my best friend, or you've probably got in your mind who you would want your kids. Even though you don't want to think about it, you deep down know who's got the same values as you, so you know who you'd want them to go to. But if you don't document that, when you've passed away, there's no one to ask. So then someone that's never met you, someone that's never met your children, someone that's never met the guardians who are then coming forward, they have to make that decision. How do you know they're going to get that right? So Helen's absolutely right. If you're a parent and you want to absolutely make sure that if, God forbid, you passed away before you'd seen your children grow up, make a will and appoint your guardians, and then forget about it and just, you know, get on with your life. But you've done something amazing. It's completely selfless, this, but as a parent, I think you take a great deal. I'm a father of two, and I've got quite a lot of peace of mind from the fact that I know that if the worst happened to me and my wife, the boys are going where we want them to go. Yeah. You know, and that's a weight off.
And everyone at home, Ian, why should they choose simpler law rather than maybe writing or filling out one of those templates that you can?
Well, we're professionals. This is all that we do. Templates are terrifying to me. Because unless you're experienced in this profession and you understand the legalities, you can make a real mess of it. And that isn't me being critical, but will writing's not easy.
No.
And a template will not give you any advice. It'll give you pointers about what you should write, but it won't give you advice about your situation. It won't give you tax advice. It's not there to help, basically. It's just I get really upset with templates.
And it could be completely worthless if you sign it incorrectly. You can do the smallest mistake and it's completely worthless.
Well, you've still got to buy a template, so you're going to spend money. If you're going to make a will, you want to use a professional who knows what they're doing and can give you advice and hold your hand. If we make a mistake as a professional company, we carry £5 million of professional indemnity insurance, which means if we make a mistake, your estate, your family's covered, and touch wood, we never have.
Wow.
Because this is all we do, this is what we do day in, day out, so we know what we're doing. We can give you that advice that a template can't. Also, once we give you the documents, we keep in touch with you. We make sure that you received them, we make sure that you understand them, we make sure there's no errors in them, and we help you sign them correctly, which might not sound like a big thing, but even in this digital age, a will's not valid until it's got a wet signature on it, until it's been attested correctly. So you imagine how many people go ahead and do these documents, but then don't get them signed correctly. We'll hold your hand from start to finish and make sure our job, what you're paying us to do, is make sure that you've got a document that's not only right for you, but it's going to work. If you do a template, you're responsible for doing everything, and genuinely, how do you know that you've done it right? And I always say this, if I have a toothache, I'm going to go to a dentist. You know, I'm going to go to a professional. If my car breaks down, I'm going to go to a mechanic. If I want a kitchen fitting, I'm going to go to a kitchen fitter. So if I want a will, I think I'll do that myself. And this is so important. It's your last act on planet Earth. Why do you want to risk messing it up? So, you know, don't spend money on a template. Give us a call, let us do it for you. Let us take that.
And the great thing is, it is so affordable. It's so affordable, it's so simple. The deals this morning, have a look, because honestly, I thought making a will would be so expensive, and it truly, truly isn't. You've got incredible savings, but actually at £180, it's a really, really good price, isn't it? That what you want to happen is going to happen. But actually our deal today, £89, and you can split that over 4 payments, £22.25. That's the cost of probably what you spend on coffee, or less than what you spend on coffee in a month. Then you've got lasting power of attorney. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a couple of moments for you and explain and talk you through that. £325 suggested retail price, £179 is the offer price. £44.75 if you want to split the cost across 3 payments. And if you want to combine the two together, the will and the LPA, it's better than half price. Should be over 500, it's 249, or 62.25 on your first of 4 payments. First 250 people, remember, will get that fantastic book, What My Family Should Know, which is where you keep everything, all your passwords, your utility bills, your pensions, so everyone knows where everything is, but only for the first 250 people. Now, to get in touch, that's really simple and straightforward as well. There are a few different ways. Let's take a look how simple it is and how easy it is right now to get in touch. It is. Perhaps you don't want to speak to anyone right now, so you can email simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, and they will get back to you and secure that deal and, of course, arrange your appointment. However, the team are in this morning. I know they are busy. They're in till 3 a.m. So if you want to call 0333 600 2600, and they're an amazing team. So do jump onto the phones and speak to them. The busiest way, which the way a lot of people like to get in touch on our evening shows, is if you want to text. And if you do send a text, the team will get in touch with you after 11 a.m. this morning. So they won't wake you up really early. Just text the word will, WILL, to 66777. That's WILL to 66777. And you don't need to know anything this morning. It is just getting in touch to secure those deals and taking that first step, that peace of mind. And it may be just your pets. Everybody should have a will. You've all got something that you want, whether it's a ring that's really precious that you want to leave to somebody, or perhaps don't want to leave to somebody. And it's making sure that what you actually want in your heart to happen happens, because it honestly doesn't if you haven't got a will. And we didn't realise. I presume my money was Sean's was mine. We've been together 33 years. Obviously, we'd want that to happen. Would not have happened at all. I wouldn't have had Sean's money at all. He wouldn't have had my money at all. We're devastated already. It would have been absolutely devastating to think, oh gosh, I could lose the house. It's those final wishes. Yeah, absolutely. So and it's so simple to do. As is lasting power of attorney, which we are going to speak to now. I will speak about now. And we actually set this up for my mum with Simpler Law before they were with us here on Shop on TV. And it petrified me, if I'm honest, and definitely petrified my mum. It was so easy. Don't feel you need to know anything. It is a lovely conversation, a simple conversation. It's chatting to somebody. Marianne was the lady we dealt with. She was amazing. And what they need to know, they talk you through and they get out of you, because through a chat, it's so simple. But you might think, I don't really know what lasting power of attorney is. And Ian, tell us a little bit more about what it is for anyone who doesn't know. Yeah, lasting power of attorney is a document that you can only make whilst you've got capacity. Same with a will, to be fair, but unlike a will, we know that there's an inevitability to that document being used, so a will's always going to be used. A lasting power of attorney is there to look after you and help your family look after you if, God forbid, life threw you a curveball
and you were incapacitated through something like ill health or an accident. So if you found yourself in a position where you couldn't make decisions for yourself, we're all living longer. Dementia's in the news a lot. You know, our charity this year is the Alzheimer's Society. You know, it's quite
prevalent.
It's definitely prevalent, and you know, most people that I speak to, unfortunately, have either been touched by it indirectly or directly. So we know it's a problem, and it's awful. But that situation can be compounded if your loved ones don't have the authority to step into your shoes, for want of a better description, and make decisions that they know are right for you. There's two types of lasting power of attorney. There's one document that deals with your financial affairs, your property, and there's one that deals with your health and your well-being, called health and welfare. They're both as important as each other, but for very different reasons. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't make these documents whilst you have the capacity to do so, then no one can step into your shoes and act for you. So Sean, if I decided that you were my attorney, if I set up this document, I can get it registered with the Office of Public Guardian, and in the eyes of all the institutions that I deal with, you become me. That's how powerful it is. So if one morning I can't throw the quilt cover back and do everything that I would ordinarily do, then I don't know why I'm throwing a quilt. I don't know where. It's early. It's early in the morning.
Putting your hands in Sean's hands.
Yeah, this has taken a slight turn, hasn't it? It's taken a turn. Anyway, Hayley, you're my attorney. I don't trust Sean any longer.
Much better.
But interestingly, that's the point, is you must know someone that you trust, and typically it's your spouse or it's your partner or it's your children. But if you don't give them that authority, and that's what this document does, if you don't give them that authority, they cannot act. And that can be devastating.
Alan, what happens if, because there's misconceptions here, like there is with wills, you know, we got it completely wrong. I would have presumed, really, if my mum was really poorly and she couldn't do what she needed to do, that I could easily just step in and take control of everything.
And I think a lot of people do think that, because they think, well, I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm trying to look after them at a time when they need it most, so there must be something that I can do. But actually, if you think about it, there's lots of laws now around data protection and all that kind of thing, which means that a lot of companies won't even speak to you if you're not the account holder.
No.
Never mind trying to actually deal with any kind of financial affairs. You know, you couldn't just walk into a bank and try and access somebody else's account. And the same happens when somebody loses capacity. In fact, it becomes more difficult, because actually they're now a vulnerable person and there are laws to protect them, which is quite right. You know, people in society who have lost capacity through accident or illness need that protection to make sure that they're not taken advantage of. Because in last year alone, there was about £500 million of assets that were stolen from people over the age of 65.
Gosh.
And for a lot of those people, it was actually people they knew that had done that to them. So this power of attorney is all about taking control and making sure you're giving authority to somebody that you know and that you trust to deal with those finances. And it means that if then anyone does try to take advantage of you, someone's got the authority to say, no, I'm in charge, I've got the power of attorney, I can stop this from happening. So it's such a really powerful document, but you need that in place. You can't just automatically walk in and take over.
And what does happen if you haven't got that in place?
Yeah, so it's really important to understand that you have to do this now. While you're fit and well, you have to get the document in place now. If you don't do it now, the only alternative is for your family to apply for something called a deputyship order, and that's through the Court of Protection. Now, that's a court process, so as you can imagine, it's quite a lengthy and expensive process. So you can see there the fees. There's an application fee for making that application of £371. There's then an assessment fee to make sure that you're the right person to deal with those finances. There then might be a hearing. The court might want a hearing to decide who is the right person to deal with it, and that's another £494.
Gosh.
And then the supervision fee there, that's actually an annual fee, and that's for the court to supervise what you're doing for that person to make sure that they're protected, really. So while you can understand these fees, and it's because that person, while they had capacity, didn't make an LPA and didn't say, this is the person I trust, I'm happy for them to have authority and I've signed this document to give them that authority. Because the courts haven't got that, the court is the one that has to make the decision. So they charge these fees to do that.
You've got to find that. You might not have that money.
Exactly. You can't access their finances in the meantime either. So at a time when you're desperately trying to help somebody, you're having to go through this court process. You're having to find the money to fund it. And not only that, that court process can take 12 months it's taking at the moment at the minimum. So it could be a whole year before you can access that person's finances or do anything. Change their utility provider. You know, if they go into care, actually make decisions about where they go and what medical treatment they have and all that kind of thing. A whole year while you haven't got that authority. And it's just devastating. And it's so easy to avoid that if you just put that LPA in place now.
And that again, for any age, I think lots of us think, oh, I won't do it till I'm older.
Yeah.
Whereas actually we just don't know what's around the corner, do we?
No.
My friend got knocked over 9 years ago by a car and still extremely poorly now. You just don't know what's going to happen.
No, you don't. And actually you can use a power of attorney for other things as well. You know, you can appoint someone to act, and then if you're out of the country, you know, or something like that, you can give them authority to act. It doesn't have to be reserved until you've lost capacity.
Right.
So it's a really powerful document, but we can talk you through all those options. We can explain those things to you.
And you do make it so simple, because again, it sounds really complicated. Things like this petrify me, but we knew we'd heard about it. You'd got it for your mum, and we realised we had to get it for my mum.
And they make the process so simple.
So easy.
So don't be afraid.
It's like a chat with a friend, honestly.
It's like this, like how we see it tonight.
And you get to know, they become a friend, and you know, you speak to them, you email them if you've got any questions. Marianne that dealt with us, I had so many, after you've spoken, an email, is this right, is that right? And then make sure it's all signed correctly and done right. That's the other really important thing.
Yeah,
because one of the sort of witnesses that we had was her name, the name we'd always known her by as her first name, actually wasn't, it was her middle name, and we didn't know that. So when she filled the form in, she sort of signed it one way and then wrote it another way, and we had to change that because that was incorrect.
Yeah, our compliance team would have picked up on that and made sure that it was done correctly, because it's really important, you know, you want to know that if you do need these documents in the future, that they are valid and that they're going to be accepted by the Office of the Public Guardian at that time. So it's really important to make sure they're done correctly and signed correctly.
Absolutely.
Now, there are two different types of LPA, aren't there, to reiterate?
Yeah, that's right. There's a property and affairs, financial affairs, which deals with kind of bank accounts, opening and closing bank accounts, claiming benefits for somebody. It could be dealing with HMRC and tax affairs and things like that. It could be, you know, even changing utility providers, all that kind of thing. The second one is a health and welfare power of attorney, and that gives someone the authority to make decisions that are a little bit more personal, really. And this is all about kind of what medical treatment you receive, perhaps where you live, you know, if you need permanent care, which care home you're in, and all that kind of thing, even down to what social activities you take part in on a day-to-day basis. So all these really personal things that actually it's only someone who really knew you well who would be able to make those decisions for you. You wouldn't want a stranger making those decisions. No. It's so personal. So both documents are really important.
We decided to do both, and of course if you haven't got it in place, what happens again, just like the wills, what happens that you think will happen doesn't happen at all, does it?
It doesn't, no. You then have to go through that court of protection route. It's not something that you can just step in. You can't just automatically have that authority. You've got no voice for that person, if you like, and you can imagine that's really quite difficult. And I know there'll be people watching who are thinking, oh, hang on a minute, what if something happened to my spouse or my parents? You know, I'd be the one that has to sort that out. So, you know, I know there'll be conversations happening between families, and that can be awkward, but, you know, get people watching the show. I know that there'll be people out there that will be thinking, I need to do this, I need to sort this out for my parents as well as myself.
And again, it is that peace of mind, and once you've done it, it's just a weight off your shoulders, and it's so easy to do, and you might never need to use it, but the nice thing is that you know if something did happen, it's right there, and we've got incredible deals to make it so affordable to do. as well.
Yeah, we'll just show you those deals quickly, and then we are going to go back to the wills that we've got for you, family and estate will offers. So let's do that one first, actually. £180, it should be down to £89, down to £22.25 on your first of 4 payments. If you want the lasting power of attorney that we were just talking about, should be £325, it's £179, or £44.75 on your first of 4
It's not even the cost of probably a takeaway now, is it then, which is crazy. It makes it so affordable to do. And if you want to go for both the wills and lasting power of attorney, £505 is the price it should be. It's better than half price, actually. And with those 4 payments, £62.25. You will, if you're one of the first 250 clients this morning, get that fabulous book worth £25, which is What My Family Should Know. And in that book, you write everything that your family should know. So your bank account details, your pensions, all your passwords, because perhaps it's the photos off your phone they want, or perhaps they need to get into your emails. It's an amazing book that I think everybody should have. And to get in touch is so easy. You might be thinking, oh, I'm not really sure about talking to anybody right now. Well, you can either actually get in touch on the internet, so simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can jump on the phones, and they're fabulous on the phones, and they're there till 3 a.m. So please do ring up. All you're doing is securing the deal. That's all you're doing this evening, and then they'll sort out a date when it's right to talk to you. You don't need to answer any questions tonight at all. So that's 0333 600 2600. But the most popular is texting.
Yeah, just send the word WILL, W-I-L-L, W-I-L-L, to 66777. And send that text through tonight or today, and the team will get in touch with you after 11 o'clock this morning, so they won't call you really early. But you're just securing that deal. You're making sure you're going to get that book if you're among the first 250 people. So it is a great time to secure the deals, whichever one you want to go for.
And it's so important to get that will written, to get that lasting power of attorney sorted. And I know it's something we put off and we worry is it going to be complicated, but it's truly not. And if anybody is thinking, if you are just joining us thinking we're going to, think about, oh yeah, we should do a will, we will be going into more detail about that as well. It really is something that you must do, whether you're a single person, whether you're in a relationship, and perhaps you're like us, you've been together 33 years but not married. You'd presume each other would get the money. It's honestly not what happens at all. I wouldn't have got any of Sean's money. Sean wouldn't have got any of my money. And that would have been devastating, because the worst things happened already. And now that could completely change my life, or change your life even more.
It's not what you expect a lot of the time, and we are going to talk about those misconceptions with Helen.
And if you've been remarried and got children in different relationships and things like that, or actually if something happened to both of you, who's going to look after your children? Absolutely everybody should have a will, shouldn't
There's
they?
so many different points, whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney. The fact that Simpler Law are with us and can make it so easy, and it is just a case of getting in touch and taking that first step. If for years you've put off, not because you've put it off on purpose, you've just not got round to writing a will. Tonight could be the night for you to just make that first step.
For me, I found it too scary. I thought it'd be really expensive, and that's completely wrong as well. We've got incredible deals. It's so simple to do when you do it with the right people, Simpler Law, and you don't really need to know anything other than who you love gets what you want them to get, and perhaps who you didn't want to get things doesn't get them, because it can go every which way round, can't it?
Full circle. We are going to talk you through everything that you need to know. We're going to dispel those misconceptions as well, those things that you think might happen but don't happen in the legal system. And remember, the first 250 people who get in touch will get that fantastic book, and that book is all about knowing where everything is when someone passes away.
So do get in touch. It's very easy to do that, but don't go anywhere, because we've got so much more to tell you, and it's that peace of mind, it's that first step to know you've done something right.
Watch, shop and save with ShopOnTV.
Really great to have you with us. You're joining us just at the end of our show, but not too late to actually think about making a will. Or we're doing lasting powers of attorneys as well, and you can look back and re-watch the show as well if you want to on YouTube. But Helen, if you would, anybody thinking, I haven't got a will, I don't need one, we so do, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, some of the, like you say, we've shared some stories with you this morning just about what happens if you do die without a will in place. And the effects are really quite catastrophic on families. There are so many circumstances where people will be sat there at home thinking, well, everything's okay with me, my circumstances are really straightforward. I've spoken to Vera down the supermarket and she knows somebody who's done this before and she says everything's going to be okay. I would just say, just pick up the phone or send us a text and we'll have a conversation at another time, but just speak to us, because I can guarantee there'll be something about your circumstances which will mean it's so important for you to get a will in place.
And Ian, Simpler Law, again, you specialise in this. You are specialists.
This is all we do.
Yeah.
This is literally all we do, and I don't mean that sound derogatory, because it's incredibly specialist what we do, but that's why we can help so many people. And this is just about you taking control, because if you don't decide to do this, you're letting somebody else take control. You know, you've worked hard for everything that you've got. You love your family, you love the people around you, so your last act on planet Earth wants to be in your control. So use a professional company to do it right, because if you don't, you might just regret, or more to the point, your family might regret that you didn't. So we're there to help you, because we understand this, and this is our job every single day. We know that this might be the first time you've done it, so we will hold your hand through the whole process. So we will give you the appropriate advice along the way. It's up to you what you do with that advice. And it's interesting what you said about I was petrified, my mum was petrified.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be scared of.
Nothing.
And in essence, I'm oversimplifying it, but we have all the questions because we know what we need to ask you. And of course, you've got all the answers. It's your document, it's your family, and that's the key here. It's yours, you take control. If you don't, a set of rules that was created in 1925 is going to decide what happens to your estate and your family that doesn't care about you. There's nothing bespoke about it at all. So this is really selfless, but it's also amazing, because you'll feel it's quite cathartic when you go through the process, because you might be carrying a weight around that you don't even know you're carrying. So all I would say is if you sat there watching this now, text Will to 66777. We will call you back later today. The team is still there now. If you want to speak to one of them, or 333 600 2600, you won't regret that you did.
And you are the people to talk to. Your Trustpilot reviews are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, we're really proud of that. We've got a 5-star Trustpilot rating, but that's all about the individuals in the client care team, really. It's the people that everyone at home will be speaking to. You know, you'll be having the conversations with them, and people really pick those people out and say, you know, this person has done an amazing job. And you're right what you said earlier, they almost become friends.
They do, yeah.
Because they're available to help.
And you feel like no question is silly, whereas normally I'd find this all petrifying and I'd think, oh, I can't ask that. And because you become a friend, I think, well, actually, I can ask that. That isn't a silly question.
And they're really good at putting your mind at ease and allowing you to ask those questions, because we understand that it's all new to you. You know, you can't possibly know all of this information, but we do it on a day-to-day basis, so they're really good at explaining things as well. So if you do have questions and your scenario is a little bit more complicated, they'll be able to simplify things and make it really easy for you.
And all you've got to do is get in touch. It's as simple as that.
It really is.
Do get in touch, whether, as Ian said, you want to text, whether you want to call, whether you want to go on the website. In fact, we'll just flash those details up for you right now, so you can get in touch really easily, secure those offers tonight, and remember, the first 250 people will get that book, What the Family Should Know If Someone Does Pass Away.
Now, if you are watching now, we're coming towards the end of the show, I would take a photograph of that, and you've got that on your phone. That's what I always do. And then you've got everything there. You've got simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. Really easy. They'll get back in touch with you if you get in contact that way. Jump on the phones. They'll be there till 3 a.m. So jump on right now and be their last caller, perhaps, or the last few callers. So 0333 600 2600. Don't let them go home at 3. Keep ringing them. And then you've got the text as well. Text Will to 66777. That's the easiest. That would be my option, and is always really, really popular. And they'll get back later on today. I have to think about this after 11 o'clock this morning, which is great.
We've got to say a huge thank you, as always, to Helen and Ian for joining us.
Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you for joining us as well. It's so important. Just secure those deals, like the team have said. Get the ball in motion and make that first step. And don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. We'll see you tomorrow.